Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. In a world where humanity clings desperately to existence amidst a sea of monstrous beasts, Kalia wandered the desolate wastelands, her heart heavy with fear and anger towards her curse. As one of the few remaining humans still capable of communicating with the beasts, she had become an outcast among her own people. One day, while gathering supplies deep within the heart of a once bustling city, Kalia encountered Lysander, a cunning human strategist who saw potential in the young woman. Recognizing that Kalia's curse could be the key to turning the tides against the beasts, Lysander offered his guidance and protection. Together, they formed an uneasy alliance with other humans seeking survival in this hostile world. As their numbers grew, so too did the whispers of an ancient prophecy foretelling the rise of a beast whisperer who would lead humanity to salvation. However, these hopes were shattered when Raven, a powerful beast leader, began uniting all beasts under one banner in a bid for dominance over humanity. Sensing an opportunity to expand her influence, Raven sought out Kalia and offered her a proposition: join forces with the beasts or watch as her fellow humans were wiped from existence. Torn between loyalty to her people and fear of the beasts, Kalia struggled with her decision. But when Lysander revealed that he had discovered a hidden academy where humans could evolve into powerful beasts to survive the impending apocalypse, she found a glimmer of hope. With the support of her newfound friends and the guidance of Lysander, Kalia embarked on a dangerous journey towards the ancient academy in search of answers and a chance at redemption. As they ventured deeper into enemy territory, the group faced countless challenges: treacherous terrain, dwindling resources, and the ever-present threat of being hunted by beasts. But through it all, Kalia's resolve never wavered. She was determined to uncover the truth about her curse and her destiny as the Eternal Beast Whisperer. The sun dipped below the horizon as a weary group of humans trudged through an overgrown forest, exhausted from days of travel. Kalia, her eyes glowing with the remnants of her conversation with Raven, walked at the front with Lysander by her side. "We're almost there, Kalia," Lysander said, trying to ease her worry. "The academy lies just beyond these trees." A low growl echoed through the forest, causing everyone to freeze in their tracks. Kalia clenched her fists, eyes scanning for the source of the sound. A pack of wolves emerged from the underbrush, circling them warily. Kalia's heart raced as she focused on the beasts, whispering soothing words that calmed their anger. "We shouldn't have stopped," a voice whispered behind her. "Beasts are more dangerous when they sense weakness." Lysander stepped forward, placing himself between the wolves and Kalia. "We made it this far, we can make it through this," he said with determination in his eyes. Kalia took a deep breath, focusing on her connection to the beasts. In a voice barely audible, she addressed the wolves: "You are my kin, but not my enemy. We seek only peace." The wolves hesitated for a moment before retreating back into the forest. Lysander's eyes widened in surprise as Kalia turned to face him with a look of both fear and determination. "I will not let them defeat me," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. "Not again." Lysander placed a hand on her shoulder, his gaze filled with empathy. "You have strength within you, Kalia. We'll find our answers at the academy and together we'll change our fate." Ascension of the Eternal-Beast-Whispers. The desolate wasteland stretched on for miles around Kalia and her small group of survivors. A once bustling city lay abandoned and overgrown with vegetation, its towering buildings now silent monuments to a world long lost. The air was thick with the smell of decay and the cries of beasts echoed in the distance. "We're close," Lysander assured Kalia as they walked through the ruins. "The academy should be just over that hill." Kalia stared at the distant structure, her heart heavy with apprehension. The academy had been humanity's last hope for salvation, a place where they could evolve into powerful beasts, to stand a chance against their monstrous oppressors. but as they approached its ancient stone walls, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A sudden growl interrupted her thoughts. Kalia's eyes widened as a massive beast lumbered towards them from the shadows. Its scales shimmered with an eerie glow, and it bared its fangs in a terrifying snarl. The survivors froze, their eyes wide with fear. Quickly, Lysander whispered, drawing his sword. "We can't afford to let this creature delay us." Kalia closed her eyes, focusing on the beast's mind. It was unlike any she had ever encountered before. Its thoughts were chaotic and wild, a storm of primal emotions. She reached out with her gift, attempting to calm it as Lysander engaged in combat. The beast roared, shaking the ground beneath them. "Kalia!" Lysander cried out, struggling against the creature's grip. "You must focus." With a deep breath, Kalia pushed past her fear and anger towards the beast, reaching deeper into its mind than she ever had before. The chaos subsided, replaced by a sense of peace that seemed to emanate from her very core. The beast let go of Lysander, backing away with a whimper. "What did you do?" Lysander asked in awe. "I've never seen anything like that." Kalia shook her head, still shaken by the experience. "I don't know," she whispered, "but something inside me seems to be changing." As they continued their journey towards the academy, Kalia felt a growing sense of unease. The power she had just demonstrated was unlike anything she had ever experienced, and she couldn't shake the feeling that it would come at a great cost. But for now, they pressed on, determined to find a way to survive in this harsh world, and uncover the truth behind the ancient prophecy. As night fell, they finally reached the academy's gates. The stone structure loomed before them, its once grand courtyard now overgrown with weeds and vines. The air was thick with anticipation, and Kalia could feel the weight of all that rested on her shoulders. "We made it," Lysander said, his voice filled with pride. "The academy is ours to explore." Under the cover of darkness, Kalia's group cautiously tread through the overgrown forest, their senses heightened by the ever-present danger lurking just beyond the reach of their torches. The once bustling city they had left behind felt like a distant memory, its towering skyscrapers now reduced to crumbling ruins under the weight of nature's relentless reclamation. Kalia's heart raced as she struggled to control her affliction, feeling the whispers of the beasts around them. The voices grew louder, their calls a cacophony of anger and hunger that threatened to overwhelm her. "Are you sure this is the right path?" Lysander asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he scanned the darkness for any signs of danger. Kalia's grip on her sword tightened as she nodded, the weight of their mission bearing down on her shoulders. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the whispers grew louder still, until they stumbled upon an ancient stone wall, covered in moss and vines. The wall seemed to radiate a strange energy, sending shivers down Kalia's spine as she reached out with her mind, sensing the power that lay beyond its surface. "This must be it," Lysander murmured, his eyes wide with awe. The academy. Kalia's heart pounded in her chest as they approached the wall, feeling the energy pulsating beneath their feet. The whispers reached a fever pitch, growing into an almost unbearable crescendo before suddenly falling silent. A figure stepped out from behind the wall, its massive form towering over Kalia and her companions. Raven, the powerful beast leader who sought to unite all beasts under one banner in a bid for dominance over humanity, stood before them with a sneer on his face. "Greetings, travelers," he growled, his eyes never leaving Kalia. "I've been expecting you." Kalia felt the weight of her affliction bear down on her as she stared up at Raven, realizing that he was the source of the whispers she had heard throughout their journey. As the leader of all beasts, he held a power greater than any human could comprehend, and now stood between them and their salvation. But Kalia would not let fear dictate her actions any longer. She took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage she possessed as she stepped forward, meeting Raven's gaze head-on. "We seek the ancient knowledge that lies within these walls." she said firmly. "And we will not let you stand in our way." Raven laughed, a sound that sent chills down their spines. "I believe I have something far more valuable to offer you, little one." He reached out with a clawed hand, grabbing Kalia by the throat and lifting her off the ground. "Your power, the connection to all beasts, it's what I truly desire." As Raven's grip tightened, Lysander lunged forward, his sword flashing in the dim light, as he fought to free Kalia from the beast's grasp. But despite their combined efforts, they were no match for Raven's strength. With a snarl, Raven tossed Kalia aside, sending her crashing to the ground. "You humans are nothing but a nuisance," he growled. "But I will enjoy seeing you suffer as I claim your precious gift." As Kalia struggled to rise, she felt a surge of anger and determination welling up within her. She could not let Raven take what was rightfully hers, or allow him to destroy the last vestige of humanity. With a roar, she reached out with her mind, summoning the power of all the beasts within earshot. A deafening roar echoed through the forest as the beasts answered her call, their collective energy washing over Raven like a tidal wave. He stumbled back, his eyes wide with shock and fear as Kalia stood before him, her face twisted in a snarl of defiance. "I am no longer your plaything," she spat. "I am the Eternal Beast-Whisperer, and I will not bow to your tyranny." Then, Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. Inside the ancient stone walls of the academy, Kalia's small group huddled together, their torches flickering weakly against the darkness. The air was thick with tension as Lysander explained that within these walls lay knowledge that could help them evade Raven and the other beasts. "We must tread carefully," he warned, his voice echoing off the crumbling stone. "The Academy holds great power and secrets. It may not be easy to navigate." Kalia nodded, her eyes narrowed as she scanned their surroundings. The once bustling city that just beyond these walls seemed like a distant memory. She could still remember the days when humanity lived without fear, but those days were long gone. As they ventured deeper into the academy, the group encountered strange and ancient machinery, remnants of a time long past when man and beast coexisted in harmony. Kalia's heart raced as she sensed the presence of beasts lurking nearby, their whispers echoing through her mind like an unwanted symphony. One by one, they passed through narrow corridors and darkened rooms, until they reached a vast chamber filled with towering bookshelves and ancient artifacts. The group exchanged uneasy glances as the air grew colder, the whispers growing louder. Kalia's eyes caught sight of an imposing tome resting atop one of the shelves. She felt an inexplicable pull towards it, as though it held answers that she desperately needed. As she reached out to touch the cover, a sudden roar echoed through the chamber, causing the group to scatter in terror. A massive beast materialized before them, its eyes burning with an intense red light. Its body was a twisted mass of flesh and bone, a grotesque parody of humanity's former glory. Kalia felt the beast's collective anger pulsating through her veins, threatening to consume her entirely. Lysander stepped forward, his face stern as he addressed the beast. "You will not harm us," he declared, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "We seek only knowledge." The beast sneered, its mouth revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "I am Raven," it growled, revealing itself to be the source of Kalia's torment. "And I demand that you leave these halls immediately." Kalia felt her heart race as she realized the enormity of their predicament. They were trapped within the academy, with no way out and a powerful enemy determined to destroy them. She took a deep breath, feeling the beast's power surging through her. If they were to survive this encounter, she knew she would have to face her fears head-on. "I will not leave," Kalia said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "I am here for a purpose, and I will see it through." Raven's eyes narrowed as he regarded Kalia, sensing her determination. "You are not like the others," he mused. "You have a connection to these walls that I cannot understand. You know my secret," Kalia said, her voice low and dangerous. "But you will never take it from me." Raven snarled, his eyes flashing with rage. "We shall see who is stronger," he spat, lunging towards her. The group fought valiantly, their lives hanging in the balance as they battled against the beast. Kalia's connection to the beasts gave her an advantage, but she struggled to control their power, the whispers growing louder and more overwhelming with each passing moment. As the battle raged on, Lysander watched helplessly as Kalia fought with everything she had. He knew that if they were to have any hope of surviving this encounter, he would need to find a way to help her harness the full power of her gift. With a burst of determination, he reached out to her, channeling his own energy towards hers. Together, their powers surged, enveloping the chamber in an explosion of light. The battle ended abruptly as Raven crumpled to the ground, defeated. Kalia's eyes widened as she realized what had happened. She had never felt such raw power coursing through her veins before. As the group caught their breath, Lysander spoke softly to Kalia. "You are stronger than you know," he said, his voice filled with awe. "With your connection to the beasts and my strategic mind, we can overcome any challenge that comes our way." In the heart of the ancient academy, Kalia's group trudged through narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings that whispered of forgotten knowledge. The air hung heavy with anticipation as they ventured deeper into this labyrinthine fortress. "We must be careful," Lysander warned, his eyes scanning the shadows for signs of danger. "The academy's inhabitants may still lurk within these walls." Kalia nodded, gripping her makeshift spear tightly. Her connection to the beasts had grown stronger since their encounter with Raven, and she felt a strange sense of comfort in this place where her kind were once revered. But that feeling was quickly overshadowed by her fear and anger towards the curse that plagued her. "We cannot let our guard down," she muttered to herself, not even for a moment. As they delved further into the academy, they stumbled upon an overgrown forest. The trees twisted and gnarled, their leaves glowing faintly with an ethereal light. Kalia felt a strange pull towards the forest, but Lysander urged them to press onward. "We must find the heart of this place if we're to discover the truth behind our purpose," he said. Despite her reservations, Kalia continued through the forest with her group. They navigated treacherous terrain and battled ferocious beasts that lurked within the shadows, but eventually, they reached a clearing where an ancient stone wall loomed before them. "The academy," Lysander breathed, awestruck by the sight of the massive structure. "This must be its heart." Kalia felt her heart race as she gazed upon the imposing edifice. She knew that within its walls lay answers to questions she'd longed to ask for so long, but with every step they took towards the academy, the weight of her curse seemed to grow heavier. "We cannot stop now," Lysander said, sensing her hesitation. "The fate of humanity rests on our shoulders." Then, Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers, the clearing before them stretched out like a river of green in the desolate wasteland, the overgrown forest beckoning as if welcoming them home. Kalia's heart swelled with both excitement and fear, her mind flooded with images of the creatures that called this place their own. Lysander's voice echoed through her thoughts, reminding her of their mission: uncover the truth behind her curse and the ancient prophecy that bound them all. Together they ventured into the forest, guided by a faint trail that seemed to lead deeper within its depths. As they walked, Kalia could feel the whispers growing louder, like the hum of 1,000 insects buzzing around her head. She closed her eyes, focusing on the steady rhythm of Lysander's footsteps beside her, determined to push past her fear and uncover the secrets that lay hidden within this ancient forest. The air grew thicker as they delved deeper, the whispers growing stronger until it felt as if she could hear each individual creature calling out to her. Suddenly, a guttural growl echoed through the trees, and Kalia's heart skipped a beat. Lysander tightened his grip on her arm, urging her forward with silent encouragement. They emerged from the dense foliage into a small clearing, their eyes drawn to an immense stone wall that loomed before them. Intricate carvings adorned its surface, depicting scenes of battle and conquest. Kalia felt a shiver run down her spine as she gazed upon the ancient artifacts, her mind filled with memories of the wars that had once ravaged this land. Lysander stepped forward, his hand tracing the carvings as he read aloud the stories etched into the stone. Kalia watched him intently, feeling a strange connection to the history unfolding before them. The whispers grew louder still, and she could feel the weight of the beasts pressing down on her, each one demanding to be heard. As they continued their exploration, Kalia found herself drawn to a particular carving, a woman standing atop the stone wall, her arms outstretched as if embracing the world below. Her eyes met Kalia's, and for a moment she felt a strange sense of recognition. Suddenly the ground beneath them shook violently, and a massive beast emerged from the shadows, its eyes fixed on Kalia with an unreadable expression. Raven, the beast leader who sought to unite all beasts under one banner, stood before them, her powerful form towering over the human pair. "You should not be here," she growled, her voice as deep and commanding as thunder. "This place is mine." Kalia's grip on Lysander tightened, her heart racing with fear. She could feel the whispers growing louder, their voices clamoring for her attention. But amidst the chaos, she found a strange sense of calm, an inner strength that seemed to well up from deep within her very soul. "I am here because I seek answers," Kalia replied, her voice steady and firm despite the fear that threatened to consume her. "Answers you cannot give me." Raven's eyes narrowed, her gaze piercing through Kalia's defenses. But as she spoke, a strange sense of familiarity passed between them, and for a moment, Raven hesitated. "You are the one they speak of," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Eternal Beast-Whisperer." Kalia stared back at her, feeling a wave of disbelief wash over her. The prophecy was true, and she was the chosen one. But as she looked into Raven's eyes, she knew that this was only the beginning of a long and treacherous journey. With a final glance at Lysander, Kalia turned to face Raven, determined to uncover the truth behind her curse and fulfill the prophecy. Together, they would face the challenges ahead and forge a new path for humanity, one where beasts and humans could coexist in harmony. But first, she had to learn to control her powers, to harness the whispers that called to her from the depths of the forest. And as she stood before Raven, Kalia knew that this was just the beginning of a journey that would test her strength, challenge her beliefs, and ultimately change the world forever. The ground rumbled beneath their feet, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, Kalia and Lysander ventured deeper into the ancient forest, seeking answers to the mysteries that lay hidden within its depths. The whispers grew louder still, and she could feel the weight of the beasts pressing down on her, each one demanding to be heard. But amidst the chaos, Kalia found a strange sense of purpose, an inner strength that seemed to well up from deep within her very soul. In the ancient academy, Kalia stood before an imposing tome filled with intricate carvings. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her, as if it were a physical force trying to hold her back. Lysander approached, his gaze fixed upon the tome's cover. "What do you make of this?" he asked, gesturing towards the carvings. Kalia hesitated, unsure if she dared to touch something so ancient and powerful. Her hand trembled as she traced her fingers over the surface. The stone seemed to come alive beneath her touch, images flickering before her eyes. She saw visions of beasts waging war on humanity, carving their way through cities, devouring everything in their path. "These carvings, their predictions," Kalia said softly, her voice barely audible above the whispers that filled the air around them. "Prophecies of what is yet to come." Lysander nodded, his eyes never leaving the tome. "And you, Kalia, are at the heart of it all. You're the key to humanity's survival." A sudden roar echoed through the academy, shaking the very foundations beneath their feet. Lysander gripped her arm, pulling her towards a narrow corridor lined with intricate stone carvings that glowed faintly in the dim light. "We must find shelter," he said urgently. The beasts are closing in. They raced down the corridor, their footsteps echoing off the stone walls as they navigated the twists and turns of the academy. As they entered a small clearing, the ground shook once more. Kalia stared up in horror as a massive beast emerged from the shadows, its eyes fixed on them. Its roar was deafening, sending tremors through the earth. "That's Raven," Lysander whispered, his voice barely audible over the creature's growls. She must be stopped. Kalia could feel a strange connection to the beast, as if it were a part of her. She reached out tentatively, sending a message through their bond. "Raven," she called, "we mean you no harm. We seek only to understand each other." The beast hesitated, its eyes narrowing as it studied Kalia. Then, slowly it stepped back, allowing them to pass. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. The narrow corridor led deeper into the ancient academy, its walls etched with intricate carvings of beasts and humans interacting peacefully. Kalia felt a strange energy coursing through her veins as she traced her fingers over the glowing symbols. Lysander remained silent, studying the images that filled the stone walls on both sides. "This place. It's like a dream," said Kalia, gazing up at the towering carvings of beasts and humans living in harmony. "It feels so far removed from our current reality." Lysander nodded gravely. The academy was built to teach humanity how to evolve into powerful beasts, ensuring our survival against the impending apocalypse. "It seems that the time for evolution has come, but what about the prophecy? Are we meant to coexist or conquer?" Kalia asked, a hint of hope in her voice. Lysander sighed. "The truth is unclear. We must uncover as much knowledge as possible and make informed decisions based on our findings." As they walked deeper into the academy, Kalia couldn't shake the feeling that the answers she sought lay hidden somewhere within these ancient walls. She felt a connection to this place, a pull that seemed to resonate deep within her very soul. The pair entered a clearing, the ground littered with fallen stone pillars and broken statues of beasts long since past. A sudden rustling in the underbrush caused Kalia's heart to race. She froze, her senses heightened as she listened intently. "There's something out there," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I can feel it." Lysander, ever vigilant, drew his sword and crept forward cautiously. The rustling grew louder, and Kalia could sense a powerful presence nearby. Suddenly, a massive beast emerged from the underbrush, its eyes locking onto their intruders with a hungry glare. "Raven," Kalia breathed, her heart pounding in her chest as the beast's true identity was revealed. The beast leader regarded them for a moment before speaking in a deep, rumbling voice. "You seek answers, young one. I can help you find what you need." Kalia hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. Lysander stepped forward protectively, his gaze never leaving the beast as he spoke. "We only wish to understand our purpose here. Can you offer guidance?" Raven nodded. "Very well. But be warned, the path you walk is not an easy one. It will test your resolve and challenge your beliefs." Kalia stared at the massive beast that stood before them, its eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. Raven, as it called itself, was unlike any creature she had ever encountered, a terrifying yet captivating embodiment of power and intelligence. "You seek to understand your purpose." Raven spoke in a voice that echoed through the stone walls surrounding them like thunder. "I can help you, Kalia of the Beast-Whisperer lineage." Lysander stepped forward cautiously, his eyes scanning the beast from head to tail. "We've traveled far to find answers," he said, trying to hide his own unease. "But what do you want in return for your guidance?" Raven's gaze shifted to Lysander, its expression unreadable behind a face designed for intimidation. "I have no interest in deals or bargains," it replied. "My only desire is the survival of my people, and perhaps the salvation of yours." Kalia felt a strange compulsion to trust Raven, a whisper in her mind that whispered of ancient prophecies and hidden knowledge. But she couldn't shake off the fear that gripped her heart. What if this beast was simply using her as a pawn in its own twisted game? Very well, Lysander said, taking a deep breath. We accept your help. But know that we will not be swayed by deception. Raven's eyes narrowed slightly at his words, but it gave no sign of anger or threat. Instead, it turned and led them deeper into the academy, its massive form gliding effortlessly through the narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings depicting scenes of harmony between humans and beasts. As they ventured further, Keelia couldn't shake off the feeling that they were being watched, not by Raven, but by some unseen presence lurking within the shadows of the ancient walls. She tried to push away her fears, reminding herself that she was not a helpless victim, but the eternal beast whisperer, chosen by destiny for a purpose greater than herself. But as they entered a small clearing, Keelia's heart leaped into her throat when she saw what lay before them, another beast, even larger and more terrifying than Raven. Its eyes burned with an unholy fire, its form twisted and grotesque in ways that seemed impossible for a living creature. Behold, Raven said, stepping closer to the monstrous beast, the final challenge, Keelia. Face this creature and prove your worth. Keelia stared into the beast's eyes, feeling its malevolent presence seeping into her very soul. She knew that she couldn't turn back now for her own sake and for the future of humanity. She had to face this challenge head-on. Taking a deep breath, Keelia closed her eyes, summoning the strength within herself to confront the unknown. With Lysander by her side, she stepped forward into the clearing, determined to uncover the secrets of her curse and find the salvation prophesied in the ancient texts. The beast let out a roar that shook the very foundations of the academy walls, but Keelia refused to falter. With her heart pounding in her chest, she reached out with her mind, trying to communicate with this monstrous being as she had done countless times before with lesser creatures. And to her surprise, a voice answered, a voice that echoed like thunder and seemed to resonate within the very core of her being. It spoke of ancient wisdom, of the balance between humans and beasts, and of the calamity that would befall the world if they failed in their quest for harmony. As the beast recounted its tale, Keelia felt a strange connection forming between them, not one of master and servant, but of equals bound by fate. She understood now that her curse was not a punishment but a gift, meant to help guide humanity towards a future where they could coexist peacefully with their monstrous allies. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. In the dimly lit corridors of the ancient academy, Keelia's heart pounded with anticipation. The echoes of her footsteps seemed to resonate through the stone walls, as if taunting her about the secrets hidden within their depths. Lysander, ever vigilant, scanned the shadows for any signs of danger, his eyes gleaming with determination. The trio had journeyed far from the small group of survivors that clung together in the desolate wastelands outside the academy's imposing stone walls. Their quest to uncover the hidden curriculum and understand Keelia's mysterious connection to the beasts had brought them here, into the heart of ancient knowledge. As they ventured deeper, the narrow corridors began to open up into vast chambers filled with intricate carvings depicting humans and beasts living together in harmony. A sense of long-lost tranquility hung heavy in the air, yet an undercurrent of danger lurked beneath. The group paused at one such chamber, as if drawn by a silent force. Before them stood an imposing tome, its pages filled with ancient symbols and illustrations that seemed to dance before their eyes. Lysander approached cautiously, his hand trembling slightly as he reached for the book. "We must be careful," he warned Keelia. "This could hold knowledge that could change everything." Keelia nodded, her own excitement threatening to overwhelm her fear. As Lysander began to leaf through the pages, she felt a presence behind them, watching, waiting. Turning slowly, she found herself face to face with Raven, the beast leader who had first revealed the prophecy to her. Her heart raced as she took in the sight of the massive creature, its scales shimmering like liquid emeralds under the dim light. The eyes that met hers were intelligent and calculating, a stark contrast to the raw power radiating from every inch of Raven's imposing form. "You seek answers, Kalia," Raven intoned. "I have come to test your resolve." Kalia felt a surge of anger and fear course through her veins, but she refused to let it show on her face. Instead, she fixed Raven with a steady gaze and responded, "I seek the truth about my curse and our future." "You hold the key to both, yet you wish to claim that power for yourself." Raven's lips curled into a smile, but there was no warmth in it. "You are right, young one," he said, "but I assure you your true purpose lies within my grasp." As the two stood locked in each other's gaze, Lysander stepped forward, his voice steady and firm. "We will not let you take what is rightfully hers, Raven. We will find a way to defeat you, no matter the cost." Raven laughed, the sound echoing through the chamber like thunder. "You are fools to think that your pitiful human strength can stand against me," he sneered. "But perhaps, in the end, you shall prove me wrong." With a final glance at Raven's mocking visage, Kalia and Lysander turned away, their determination stronger than ever. They had come too far to let fear or treachery stand in their way. They would face whatever challenges lay ahead together, united in their quest for salvation. As they left the chamber, Kalia felt a cold wind sweep through the academy, carrying with it a sense of foreboding and urgency. The trials ahead were far from over, but she knew that they had no choice but to press on, for the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and they would not falter until they had uncovered the truth about the ancient prophecy and Kalia's mysterious destiny. In the clearing outside the academy's stone walls, the group paused to rest before continuing their journey. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the once bustling city that lay in ruins beyond the trees. The air was thick with tension, as if the very earth itself held its breath in anticipation of what was to come. Kalia sat quietly, her thoughts swirling like a tempest within her mind. She knew that the path ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty, but she refused to let fear dictate her actions. Instead, she looked to the future with hope and determination, ready to embrace whatever challenges awaited her as the Eternal Beast Whisperer. As darkness fell over the ancient academy, a single star shone brightly in the sky, casting its light upon the group gathered within the clearing. It seemed to Kalia like a beacon of hope, guiding them through the trials ahead and towards their ultimate destiny. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, and prepared herself for whatever lay beyond the stone walls that protected them from the monstrous beasts that roamed the world outside. Under the light of the moon, Kalia sat alone by the fire, her heart heavy with the weight of responsibility she now bore. Lysander had fallen asleep, exhausted from their journey through the academy. The memory of Raven's sinister offer still lingered in her mind, a poisonous seed that threatened to take root and consume her. As she gazed into the flickering flames, Kalia felt a strange presence nearby. She froze, listening intently for any sound that might reveal the intruder's location. A low growl echoed through the silence, making her heart race. A beast had found them. "Lysander," she whispered, shaking him awake, "we have company." The strategist groggily opened his eyes and rubbed the sleep from them. "What is it?" he asked, sensing the fear in Kalia's voice. She pointed towards the direction of the growling. "There. Stay hidden." Lysander nodded, pulling out his sword and taking a defensive stance. Kalia closed her eyes and focused on the beast, trying to communicate with it through their shared bond. She felt its anger and hunger, but also something else, curiosity. It seemed hesitant to attack them. "It's not aggressive," she whispered to Lysander, who raised an eyebrow in surprise. "I think it wants something." "Something other than our flesh?" he asked with a hint of sarcasm. Kalia shook her head. "I don't know, but we can find out." She took a deep breath and stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. The beast growled again, its ears perked up as it sensed her approach. "Don't be afraid," she said softly. "We mean no harm." The beast tilted its head curiously, taking a step towards Kalia. She knelt down to meet its eyes, feeling the raw power and emotion radiating from it. The connection between them was stronger than any she had ever felt before. It was as if they were two lost souls finally finding each other. "I am Kaelia," she said, extending a hand towards the beast. "And this is Lysander." The beast nuzzled her outstretched arm gently, allowing her to stroke its rough fur. Lysander watched in amazement as the two seemed to understand each other without words. He had never witnessed anything like it before. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Kaelia smiled, feeling a sense of calm wash over her for the first time since they entered the academy. "I think this beast is offering to help us." Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. Kaelia's group emerged from the cover of the ancient stone walls into the clearing, the massive beast by their side. They stared at the remnants of what was once a bustling city, now overgrown with trees and moss, nature reclaiming its dominion. The air felt heavy, tainted by the weight of despair that hung over the ruins. Lysander stepped forward cautiously, scanning the horizon for any signs of danger. Kaelia's eyes were drawn to a narrow corridor lined with intricate stone carvings, leading deeper into the city. A shiver ran down her spine as she remembered the prophecy and the whispered words of Raven. "What lies within those walls?" she asked, unable to hide the fear in her voice. Lysander studied the carvings, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I cannot say for certain," he replied, "but I believe it may hold answers we seek." The beast growled softly, sensing Kaelia's unease. It nudged her gently, urging her to follow him into the city. She hesitated, torn between curiosity and fear. The weight of her curse seemed heavier than ever before. As they ventured deeper into the ruins, Lysander shared stories of his past, speaking of a time when humanity lived in harmony with the beasts. He spoke of an ancient academy, hidden deep within the city, where students learned to harness their powers and protect themselves from the monstrous threats that plagued the world. "But what happened?" Kaelia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lysander's expression darkened. "A betrayal from within our ranks led to the fall of the academy," he said somberly. "We must be careful not to make the same mistakes." They continued their journey through dimly lit corridors, passing vast chambers filled with dust and decay. The air grew colder as they neared the heart of the city, Kaelia's heart racing in anticipation. Suddenly a soft glow emanated from an open doorway. "There," Lysander said, pointing towards the light. "I believe that is where we should go." Kaelia nodded, her resolve strengthening. She took a deep breath and stepped forward into the unknown, followed closely by Lysander and their newfound beastly ally. As they crossed the threshold, they entered a massive chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings depicting scenes of human-beast coexistence. Kaelia's eyes were drawn to an imposing tome resting on a pedestal in the center of the room. As she approached it, she felt a strange pull towards the book, as if it held answers she desperately sought. Lysander studied the carvings, his fingers tracing over ancient symbols that seemed to dance before his eyes. "This is the hidden curriculum," he whispered, awestruck. "A means for humanity to evolve and survive in this new world." Kaelia reached out, her hand trembling as she touched the cover of the tome. A sudden surge of energy coursed through her veins, causing her to stumble back. She looked up, meeting Lysander's eyes. "What have I done?" she asked, panic rising within her. "We must read it," Lysander said firmly. "But be careful. This power comes with great responsibility." Kaelia nodded, taking a deep breath and opening the tome. As they delved deeper into its secrets, they discovered that the prophecy was true. There existed a path for humanity to evolve and survive the impending apocalypse. But at what cost? Their journey had only just begun, and the stakes were higher than ever before. The weight of their destiny pressed heavily upon them as they sought out the truth behind the prophecy and the true nature of Kaelia's curse. Little did they know, Raven was watching from the shadows, eagerly awaiting his chance to claim her power for himself. The end of the night brought no rest for weary travelers as they ventured deeper into the ancient city, seeking answers and a way forward in this world overrun by monstrous beasts. The prophecy whispered through Kalia's mind, a constant reminder of the fate that awaited them all. With each step, she felt her connection to the beasts growing stronger, fueling her determination to uncover the truth and save humanity from certain doom. The moon cast eerie shadows across the desolate wastelands as Kalia's small group of survivors huddled around a fire in the clearing outside the ancient stone walls of the academy. The air crackled with tension, the silence broken only by the distant howls of beasts lurking beyond the walls. Lysander, his eyes reflecting wisdom and concern, turned to Kalia. "We must prepare for what lies ahead," he said, gesturing towards the towering stone walls before them. "The academy holds knowledge that could save us all, but it's also a place of great danger." Kalia clenched her fists, feeling the familiar anger and frustration surge within her. She could sense the beasts beyond the walls, their emotions a cacophony of hunger and aggression. "I can feel them," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. "They want to tear us apart." Lysander nodded solemnly. "But we cannot let them," he said, his voice firm. "We must face our fears and find a way to overcome them." As they approached the ancient stone walls, Kalia felt a presence watching her. She knew it was Raven, the powerful beast leader who sought to claim her power for his own, but she refused to let him intimidate her. "What do you want from me?" Kalia demanded, turning to face Raven as he stepped out of the shadows. His eyes glowed with an intense light that seemed almost otherworldly. Raven's voice was low and seductive, yet filled with a cold menace. "I see potential in you, young one," he said. "You are the key to our dominance over humanity." Kalia trembled with anger but refused to show any weakness. "I will never join you," she spat, her voice shaking. "I will fight for my people." Raven laughed, a sound that echoed like thunder through the empty city ruins. "You think you have a choice?" he asked, taking a step closer. "But remember this, Kalia, I am patient, and I will wait until you are ready to see the true power within yourself." With a final glare at Raven, Kalia turned away and walked towards the academy's massive stone doors. Inside, they found themselves in dimly lit corridors lined with intricate stone carvings depicting scenes of humans and beasts living together harmoniously. It was a stark contrast to the desolation outside. As they delved deeper into the academy, they encountered chambers filled with dust and decay, their purpose lost to time. But one massive chamber stood out among them. It was filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with energy. Kalia approached the imposing tome at its center, feeling a sense of dread wash over her. She could sense the power within, but she also knew the cost of unlocking it would be great. As she reached out to touch the tome, Lysander stepped forward and placed his hand protectively on hers. "Are you ready?" he asked softly, his eyes meeting hers. "To take whatever this book holds." Kalia hesitated for a moment, feeling the pull of power and fear coursing through her veins. But then she steeled herself and made her decision. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. In the heart of the once bustling city, the remnants of humanity scavenged for food and supplies amidst the ruins. Kalia sat by a fire with Lysander, their group's only hope of survival. Her eyes fluttered open as she listened to him speak of strategies and plans for their dwindling numbers. "Kalia," Lysander said, breaking her trance, "we need your help." She stared into the fire, the flames dancing in her eyes as they caught glimpses of memories. Memories that were becoming harder to ignore each day. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice cold and distant. Lysander looked at her with a mix of concern and hope. "We need your unique abilities. You can sense when danger is near, and the beasts respect you. We could use that to our advantage." Kalia sighed, her eyes reflecting her frustration. "But what good are my abilities if I can't control them?" If they only lead me further down this path of destruction. Lysander leaned closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. That's why we need to learn how to harness your power. We cannot afford to let it control you. As they spoke, the wind picked up, sending shivers through their worn clothing. A low growl echoed in the distance, causing Kalia to tense. She closed her eyes and focused, feeling the presence of Raven growing stronger. "It's him," she whispered. "He's coming." The group stared at her, fear etched on their faces. Lysander stood up, gathering his weapons. "We need to be ready. We can't let him take you away from us." They gathered around the fire, bracing themselves for battle. Kalia closed her eyes and took a deep breath, drawing upon the strength she had been ignoring. She opened her eyes and looked at Lysander, determination burning in her gaze. "I'm ready," she said firmly. "Let him come." As the wind howled around them, Raven appeared in the clearing, his massive form towering over the humans. He snarled, his eyes fixed on Kalia. Lysander stepped forward, weapons at the ready. "This is where you belong," Raven said, his voice echoing through the ruins. "With me." Kalia felt a surge of anger and fear, but she refused to let it control her. She looked Raven in the eyes and spoke with conviction. "I will not be your pawn. I will fight for my people and our future." Raven laughed, his laughter echoing through the ruins. "We shall see how long that lasts." The battle began, the humans fighting valiantly against their monstrous foe. Kalia focused on her abilities, sensing when to dodge, when to strike. As they fought, she felt a strange connection to Raven, a bond that seemed impossible. She pushed it away, refusing to let it cloud her judgment. Hours passed as the battle raged on. Lysander and Kalia fought alongside their group, determined not to let Raven claim victory. Finally, as the last of the humans lay wounded, Kalia stood defiantly before Raven. He snarled, preparing for his final strike. But Kalia was ready. She felt a surge of power coursing through her veins, stronger than ever before. With a cry, she lunged at Raven, striking him with all her might. The ground shook as they collided, the force of the impact sending both sprawling across the ruins. As Kalia struggled to her feet, Raven rose behind her, his eyes filled with fury. She turned, her body trembling with fear and determination. "I will not be defeated," she said, her voice steady despite her trembling. "I will find a way." Raven snarled, his eyes narrowing. "You may think you've won this battle, but it is only the beginning. We shall meet again, Kalia." With that, he disappeared into the night, leaving Kalia and her group alone amidst the ruins. As they tended to their wounds, she felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. She knew Raven was right. This was only the beginning, but she also knew she would not give up without a fight. She looked around at her group, her heart swelling with gratitude and determination. Together, they could face any challenge that came their way. And together, they would find a way to save humanity. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over the desolate wastelands. Kalia, Lysander, and their small group of survivors trudged through a once bustling city now reduced to ruins. The air hung heavy with decay as they navigated narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings that seemed to tell stories long forgotten. Lysander stopped abruptly, his eyes scanning the ancient walls. "There's something here," he whispered, sensing danger. Kalia felt a chill run down her spine, her connection to the beasts buzzing frantically in her mind. "Stay close," Lysander warned, drawing his sword as they moved cautiously through the dimly lit corridors. The group huddled together, their breaths shallow and tense, ready for whatever awaited them. As they entered a vast chamber filled with dust and decay, Kalia's senses were overwhelmed by the power emanating from an imposing tome resting on a pedestal at the center of the room. Lysander approached cautiously, his eyes scanning the ancient text. "This is it," he murmured, holding up the tome with reverence. Kalia stepped closer, her heart racing as she felt the weight of the prophecy bearing down on her. She closed her eyes, focusing on her connection to the beasts, searching for any sign of danger. Suddenly a low growl echoed through the chamber, sending shivers down their spines. The group tensed, weapons ready as they turned towards the sound. A massive beast stood before them, its body covered in thick scales and glowing eyes that bore into Kalia's soul. "Kalia," it snarled, its voice echoing with authority. "Your powers have not gone unnoticed." The beast leader Raven had found them at last. "I will not serve you," she spat, anger rising within her as she prepared to fight. Lysander stepped in front of her protectively, his eyes never leaving the massive creature before them. Raven sneered, "You cannot hide from me forever." The air crackled with tension as the two sides stood off, each determined to claim victory. With a deep breath, Kalia focused on her connection to the beasts, channeling their energy into her body. She felt it surge through her veins, filling her with strength and determination. "I will not be controlled," she roared, charging towards Raven with blinding speed. The beast leader lunged at her, but Kalia dodged deftly, striking with precision. They clashed in a whirlwind of power and fury, the energy pulsating between them as they fought for control of the chamber. As the battle raged on, Lysander and their group watched in fear, unsure who would emerge victorious. The air was thick with the scent of blood and the sound of steel against stone. Kalia's powers grew stronger with each strike, but so did Raven's determination. In a final desperate move, Kalia reached deep within herself, summoning all her power in one devastating blow. The chamber shook as she struck Raven, sending him crashing to the ground. The beast leader was down, but not defeated. With a snarl he rose to his feet, ready for another round. "This is far from over," Raven growled, retreating through the shadows as Kalia panted, exhaustion washing over her. She knew that their battle would continue, and she was determined to end it once and for all. As the group watched Raven disappear into the darkness, Lysander approached Kalia, concern etched on his face. "Are you all right?" he asked, reaching out a hand to steady her. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. The air grew colder as Kalia and her companions approached an ancient stone wall, its surface etched with intricate carvings that seemed to breathe life into the night. They had been traveling for days, moving through narrow corridors lined with decaying ruins of a once bustling city. The group had found solace in each other's company, and in the hope that the answers they sought lay beyond this wall. Kalia paused, her eyes fixed on the carvings before her. She felt a sudden chill run down her spine as a voice echoed through her mind, the voice of Raven, taunting her. He was near, waiting for them to make a move so he could strike again. "What are we doing here?" Lysander asked, sensing her unease. "We've come this far and found nothing but decay." Kalia closed her eyes, focusing on the whispers within her mind. "The prophecy, it said something about a test of resolve," she murmured, barely audible. "I think we're here for that. And what happens if we fail?" Lysander asked, his voice laced with concern. Kalia didn't answer, instead turning her attention back to the stone wall. The carvings seemed to pulsate under her gaze, drawing her in. She felt a strange energy resonating within her, an echo of something ancient and powerful. With a deep breath, she pressed her hand against the cold stone surface, feeling the energy surge through her like a thunderbolt. A sudden gust of wind tore through the ruins as a massive beast stepped forward from the shadows, its body towering over them all. It let out a roar that shook the ground beneath their feet, and Kalia fell to her knees in fear. "Kalia?" Lysander cried out, rushing towards her. The group tensed, ready to defend themselves against this new threat. But Kalia held up a hand, her eyes still fixed on the beast. I think it's not here to fight," she said shakily. "It wants something from me." The beast lowered its head, stepping closer until its massive form loomed over her. She closed her eyes, feeling the energy coursing through her veins as the memories of a past life flooded her mind. A time when beasts and humans lived in harmony, before the apocalypse that tore them apart. When she opened her eyes, she found herself standing face to face with Raven, no longer a monstrous beast but a powerful leader who bore a striking resemblance to his former self. "Welcome, Kaelia," he said, his voice softer than before. "You've passed the test of resolve. Now it's time for you to decide your path." Kaelia stared at him, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew what she must do. She would not let Raven use her power for his own gain. But she also knew that this was only the beginning of a long and treacherous journey. "I'll fight you when I have to," she said firmly, meeting Raven's gaze. "But I will never be your pawn." Raven nodded, understanding her resolve. "Very well," he said. "Your path may be difficult, but I wish you luck in finding the true nature of your curse." And with that, he turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving Kaelia and her companions to continue their journey towards salvation. The sun dipped low in the sky as Kaelia and Lysander's group traversed the desolate wastelands. The air crackled with tension, a palpable reminder of their constant struggle for survival. Raven's warning echoed in her mind, lingering like a specter she could not shake off. "We must push on," Lysander said, his voice steady and resolute. "There is no other option." Kaelia nodded, the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. She closed her eyes, focusing on the connection she shared with the beasts around them, trying to understand if they had any knowledge of Raven's next move. A sudden rustle in the underbrush caught her attention. Her heart pounded in her chest as a figure emerged from the shadows, Raven. His eyes burned with an intensity that sent chills down her spine. "You have grown stronger, Kaelia," he said, his voice dripping with menace. "But you will never be strong enough to challenge me." Kaelia's fingers twitched, yearning to reach for the knife at her waist. Lysander placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, a silent reminder that they needed more than brute force to defeat Raven. Raven continued, "I will not wait forever for you to join me. The time for decision is drawing near." Kaelia felt the weight of his words settle upon her like a shroud. She clenched her fists, determination burning in her eyes. "You underestimate me, Raven," she spat. "I will not allow you to destroy what little remains of humanity." Raven sneered. "We shall see." With that he vanished into the shadows once more. Lysander's grip on Kaelia's shoulder tightened. "We cannot let our guard down," he said, his voice low and grave. "The future hangs in the balance." As twilight gave way to darkness, Kaelia stared into the fire, her thoughts whirling with fear and anger. She knew she had to find a way to defeat Raven, to save humanity. But first, she needed to understand her curse, her purpose, and the true nature of their enemy. The following day found them standing before an ancient stone wall, its intricate carvings shrouded in dust and decay. Lysander's group studied the massive structure, searching for any clue as to what lay beyond. Kaelia stood at the forefront, her senses alert, her mind focused on the connection that pulsed within her. "What do you sense?" Lysander asked, his eyes fixed on her face. Kaelia closed her eyes, feeling the whispers of countless beasts echoing in her mind. "There's a passage behind this wall," she said, pointing to a narrow corridor lined with intricate stone carvings. "I believe it leads to the ancient academy." The group exchanged glances, their faces etched with determination. They would need to tread carefully if they hoped to uncover the secrets that lay within. But first, they had to get past the massive beast guarding the entrance. Kaelia steeled herself, reaching out with her mind to the creature before them. "We mean you no harm," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her voice. "We seek knowledge." The beast snarled, its eyes narrowing as it regarded them warily. But something shifted within those dark orbs, a flicker of understanding. It lowered its guard, stepping aside to allow them passage into the dimly lit corridors. As they ventured deeper into the ancient academy, Kaelia felt a sense of unease settle upon her. The air was heavy with the weight of history, and she could feel the whispers of countless souls echoing through the dust-filled halls. She focused on the connection within her, letting it guide her as they navigated the decaying ruins. Their journey led them to a vast chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings. Kelia's heart pounded in her chest as she took in the sight before her. This was the heart of the once bustling city, now reduced to nothing more than dust and decay. "We must be careful," Lysander warned, his voice barely above a whisper. "Who knows what secrets lie hidden within these walls?" They moved cautiously through the chamber, their eyes scanning every nook and cranny. It was then that Kelia spotted it, an imposing tome resting on a pedestal at the center of the room. She felt a strange pull towards it, as if it held answers she desperately needed. As they approached, the air around them crackled with energy, the very stones seeming to come alive beneath their feet. Kelia could feel the weight of history pressing down upon her, and she knew that whatever lay within the tome was not meant for just anyone to read. "I sense a great power within this book," Lysander said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We must be cautious." Kelia nodded, reaching out to touch the ancient cover. The moment her fingers brushed against its surface, an explosion of knowledge and emotions coursed through her veins. Images flooded her mind, visions of a time before the beasts took over, of humans living in harmony with their monstrous allies. She saw Raven, not as the enemy he had become, but as a leader united by a shared purpose. She saw herself, not as cursed, but as a beacon of hope for humanity and the beasts alike, and she saw a future where they could coexist peacefully, where the world would once again know balance. As the visions faded, Kelia knew that her purpose was not to destroy Raven or save humanity, but to restore the balance that had been lost. With newfound determination, she vowed to lead them towards a future where all could live together in harmony, beasts and humans alike. The group left the ancient academy, their minds filled with the knowledge they had uncovered. They knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but they were no longer afraid. For Kelia, the journey had just begun. She would face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to bring hope and balance back to a world consumed by darkness. The sun set as they made their way through the clearing outside the academy's stone walls, their spirits lifted by the knowledge they now possessed. As they gathered around the fire, Kelia shared what she had seen in the ancient tome. Visions of a time before the beasts took over, of humans and beasts living together in harmony. "It is our destiny," Lysander said, his voice filled with determination. "We must find Raven and show him that there is another way, a way where humanity and the beasts can coexist peacefully." Kelia nodded, her eyes shining with resolve. "I will face him when the time comes, but first we must prepare for the challenges ahead." As they settled in for the night, Kelia felt a sense of peace wash over her. She knew that their journey would not be easy, but she was no longer afraid. For she held within her the key to restoring balance to the world, the knowledge that their fates were intertwined, and together they could create a future where all could thrive. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. The sun had barely risen when Kelia's small group approached the ancient stone walls of the once bustling city. Lysander cautioned them, his eyes scanning the ruins for any signs of movement. The air was thick with tension as they entered the narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings depicting scenes of a time long past. Kelia's heart raced as her mind filled with thoughts of Raven and the test she knew she would soon face. She clutched the knife at her waist, feeling its weight reassuringly in her hand. The group moved cautiously through the vast chambers, dust and decay coating their boots as they delved deeper into the heart of the city. Suddenly, a low growl echoed the dimly lit corridors. Kelia's eyes widened with fear as Lysander raised his hand for silence. The group huddled together, their breaths coming in shallow gasps. As they waited, the growling grew louder and more urgent, eventually revealing itself to be a massive beast blocking their path. The creature regarded them with a fierce stare, its eyes glowing fiercely in the darkness. Kelia's hand trembled as she took a deep breath, preparing herself for whatever was to come. Lysander stepped forward, his voice steady and calm. "We mean you no harm," he said, holding up his hands in surrender. The beast snarled, taking several steps towards them before coming to a sudden halt. Kalia felt a connection to the creature, a sense of familiarity that filled her with both fear and curiosity. She took another deep breath, focusing on that connection as she stepped forward, slowly extending her hand towards the massive beast. The creature hesitated for a moment, seeming to consider her offering before stepping back, allowing them to pass. Kalia felt a surge of relief wash over her as they continued through the city ruins, the weight of Raven's threat ever present in their minds. As they reached the clearing outside the academy's stone walls, Kalia knew that their test was far from over. She looked to Lysander, determination burning in her eyes. "We must prepare," she said, her voice steady and strong. "Raven awaits, and we cannot afford to fail." The desolate wastelands stretched on endlessly, a constant reminder of the world that once was and the one they were fighting to reclaim. Kalia stood atop the ancient stone walls, gazing out over the vast expanse of land before her. Her heart raced as she prepared herself for the challenges that lay ahead. Beside her, Lysander shared his wisdom, guiding her towards understanding her purpose and preparing her for the confrontation with Raven. "You carry within you a power greater than any beast or human," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "It's time to embrace your destiny." Kalia turned to face him, her eyes reflecting the weight of their situation. "I fear I am not strong enough for the responsibility that comes with this power." Lysander smiled warmly, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You have come so far already, Kalia. You've faced your fears and grown stronger because of them. Trust in yourself and the bond you share with these beasts." As they descended into the overgrown forest, Kalia could sense the presence of countless creatures lurking within the shadows. Her heart pounded in her chest as she tightened her grip on the knife at her waist, a constant reminder of her connection to the world around her. They arrived at their campsite just outside the academy's stone walls, where they found Lysander's group huddled by a fire, discussing their plans for confronting Raven. Kalia felt a sense of unease settle over her as she listened to their strategies and debated the best course of action. The following morning, they approached the academy, making their way through narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings that seemed to tell ancient tales of power and struggle. Kalia could feel a growing sense of unease within herself as she ventured deeper into the academy. In one of the chambers filled with dust and decay, they discovered an imposing tome, its pages filled with arcane knowledge on how to harness the power within themselves to evolve into beasts. As Kalia examined the tome, she felt a strange pull, her eyes drawn towards a specific passage. "The eternal beast whisperer shall rise, and with their power, humanity will find salvation." A shiver ran down her spine as she realized the prophecy spoke of her. She closed the book, turning to share her discovery with Lysander. But before she could speak, a deep growl echoed through the corridors, growing louder and more menacing by the second. The group turned to face the source of the noise, their eyes wide with terror as a massive beast emerged from the shadows, its form twisted and grotesque. Raven stood atop the creature, his gaze locked onto Kalia's, a wicked smile playing upon his lips. "Greetings, eternal beast whisperer," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "I have been waiting for this moment." Kalia felt her heart race as she struggled to find her voice amidst the roar of the beast below them. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her grip tightening on her knife. "Your power, Kalia," Raven replied. "By uniting all beasts under my banner, I will rule this world and bring an end to humanity." He took a step closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "But first, I must eliminate the competition." A tense silence fell over the group as they prepared themselves for battle. Kalia looked around at her companions, feeling a surge of determination rise within her. She would not let Raven claim her power or destroy humanity. As the battle commenced, Kalia found herself fighting with newfound strength, her connection to the beasts giving her an edge against Raven and his monstrous minion. With each strike of her knife, she felt a part of herself grow stronger, drawing upon the power within her that had once seemed like a curse. In the end, Kalia stood victorious, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she looked down at Raven, who lay unconscious at her feet. The massive beast retreated back into the shadows, leaving the group to tend to their wounded and celebrate their victory. Lysander approached Kalia, a proud smile on his face. "You have shown great courage today, my friend," he said, clapping her on the shoulder, "but our journey is far from over." Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. Amidst the desolate wastelands, Kalia stood before the stone walls of what once was a bustling city. She clutched Raven's severed horn in her trembling hands, the remnants of her battle with the beast leader still fresh in her mind. Lysander approached from behind, offering her a hand to steady herself. "Kalia," he began solemnly, "we must move on. The danger is not over." She stared at the horn, feeling the weight of Raven's power coursing through it. I killed him," she whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Yes, but his followers are still out there," Lysander replied grimly. "We must find them and put an end to this once and for all." As they ventured deeper into the city ruins, they encountered a narrow corridor lined with intricate stone carvings depicting scenes of battles between humans and beasts. Kalia could feel her anger rising as she studied each image, remembering the countless lives lost in their struggle against the monstrous creatures. "Do you see this?" Lysander pointed at a carving showing a human being torn apart by a massive beast. "These were our people, our friends and family." Kalia's eyes filled with tears as she realized just how much they had lost. She clenched her fists, determination burning within her. "I won't let them die in vain," she declared fiercely. As they traversed the once bustling city, they stumbled upon a clearing amidst the ruins, where a massive beast lay slumbering. Lysander approached cautiously, his hand on the hilt of his sword. "We must take this opportunity to gather intelligence," he said quietly. Kalia followed him, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the beast's power radiating from it, a testament to its immense might. As they drew closer, she could hear its labored breathing and sense its dreams, filled with visions of conquest and domination. Suddenly, the beast stirred, awakening with a roar that shook the ground beneath them. Kalia felt her heart race as it rose to its feet, revealing itself to be one of Raven's most powerful followers. The two humans backed away slowly, knowing they were no match for such a creature. As they retreated, Lysander turned to Kalia, his eyes filled with concern. "We must find a way to defeat these beasts," he said urgently. "Their power grows stronger with each passing day." Kalia nodded, her resolve hardening. She knew that the battle was far from over, and that they would have to face many more challenges if they hoped to survive in this world overrun by monstrous creatures. But she also knew that she wasn't alone. With Lysander by her side, and the power of the beasts coursing through her veins, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together, they would fight for their survival and ultimately, the salvation of humanity. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the desolate wastelands, Kalia and Lysander made camp by a small clearing. They sat by the fire, their thoughts drifting towards the trials that lay ahead. Kalia looked at the stars overhead, feeling the weight of her burden growing heavier with each passing moment. She knew that she would have to make difficult choices, but she also knew that she was the eternal beast whisperer, destined to lead humanity to salvation. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of respite. Tomorrow, they would continue their journey, facing whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and determination. For in this world overrun by monstrous creatures, there was no room for fear or weakness. Only strength and resolve could see them through to the other side. As she closed her eyes, Kalia felt a deep sense of peace wash over her. She knew that whatever the future held, she would face it with honor, and fight for the survival of humanity until the very end. The sun rose, casting long shadows over the campsite. Kelia's small group of survivors huddled together, their eyes heavy from exhaustion but filled with determination. Lysander approached her, a knowing smile on his face. "We have gathered everything we can carry," he said. "The time has come for us to move forward." Kelia nodded, pulling her knife from her waist and looking at it as if it were a lifeline. She felt the weight of their survival resting on her shoulders, a burden she was determined to bear. As they journeyed through the overgrown forest, Kelia could sense the presence of beasts lurking around them. Their whispers echoed in her mind, reminding her that danger lay at every turn. She felt her anger rise, but Lysander's voice calmed her. "We must stay focused," he said. "Remember the purpose you have found within yourself. We are not alone in this struggle." The group pressed on the dense underbrush, their footsteps muffled by fallen leaves. The forest seemed to close around them, as if trying to swallow them whole. Kelia clung to her knife, a symbol of their only hope against the monstrous beasts that roamed this world. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees. Kelia's heart raced as she realized they were not alone. Her eyes locked onto Raven, who emerged from the shadows with her powerful followers at her side. Raven's gaze fell upon Kelia, and a cruel smile spread across her face. "So, you are the one they call the Eternal Beast-Whisperer," she sneered. "I have heard much about your gift." Kelia gritted her teeth, her anger threatening to overwhelm her. She knew that if she let it consume her, she would never stand a chance against Raven and her followers. Instead, she drew upon the courage within herself, remembering those who had died at the hands of beasts like these. "I am not your toy," Kelia spat, "and I will not bow down to you or any other beast." Raven's eyes narrowed as she stepped closer, her followers surrounding them. "You may think yourself strong, but your power is nothing compared to mine." Kelia felt the weight of Raven's words like a physical blow, but she refused to show weakness. Instead, she stood tall and met Raven's gaze, her resolve unwavering. "I will prove you wrong," Kelia vowed, "and I will bring salvation to humanity." Raven laughed, the sound sending shivers down Kelia's spine. "You are nothing but a pawn in my game," she said. "I will crush you and claim your power for myself." As Raven reached out to grab Kelia, a massive beast burst from the underbrush, roaring with fury. Its eyes locked onto Raven, and it lunged forward, knocking her aside with ease. The other beasts scattered in fear as the massive creature towered over them. Kelia stared at the beast, amazement filling her as she realized that this was not just any ordinary beast. It was a being of unimaginable power and majesty, its fur gleaming in the sunlight. "What have you done?" Raven demanded, rising to her feet and glaring at Kelia. "You have summoned the greatest beast of all." Kelia's heart raced as she looked into the eyes of this mighty creature. She knew that its power was immense, but she also sensed a deep wisdom within it. This was no ordinary beast. It was something far greater than any she had ever encountered before. The massive beast lowered its head, looking at Kelia with a curious expression. She stepped forward, reaching out to touch its snout. The beast did not recoil but instead nuzzled her hand, seeming to understand her intentions. "This is the power of the Eternal Beast-Whisperer," Kelia murmured. "A power that can unite beasts and humans together." Raven's eyes narrowed as she watched this exchange, realizing that she could not control this beast. Instead, it seemed to recognize Kelia as a kindred spirit. "You think you have won," Raven snarled. "But I will not be defeated so easily." With a growl, Raven turned and stormed off into the forest, her followers at her side. Kelia looked after them, her heart racing as she realized that this was just the beginning of their struggle. The world would never be the same again, and she knew that her role as the Eternal Beast Whisperer was far from over. As the group made their way through the forest, Kalia could feel the eyes of the massive beast watching them, a sense of comforting presence surrounding them. She knew that they were not alone in this world, and with the power of the Eternal Beast-Whisperer on their side, they would find a way to survive against all odds. The sun began to set as they reached a clearing amidst the ruins of an ancient city. The group made camp, tired but hopeful for the future. Kalia sat by the fire, her thoughts swirling with everything that had happened. She knew that their journey would not be easy, but she was determined to see it through. As they rested, Kalia felt a strange sense of peace wash over her. She knew that she could not change the past, but she could change the future. With the power of the Eternal Beast-Whisperer on her side, she would lead humanity to salvation and bring balance to a world torn apart by darkness. As the night grew darker, Kalia closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, asking for strength and guidance in the days ahead. She knew that she had a long road before her, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Eternal Beast-Whisperer would not be defeated. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. As the group approached the ancient academy's stone walls, Lysander shared his concerns with Kalia about what lay beyond the imposing structure. The air grew colder, and an eerie silence enveloped them. "We cannot know for certain what awaits us," Lysander said, "but I believe this academy holds the key to our survival." Kalia clenched her knife at her waist, her thoughts filled with doubt and fear. Raven's voice echoed in her mind, reminding her of the test that awaited her. She could already feel the weight of it bearing down on her shoulders. The group moved cautiously towards the stone walls, their hearts pounding in anticipation. The massive stone doors groaned open, revealing a dimly lit corridor lined with intricate carvings. The air within was heavy with history and the remnants of knowledge long forgotten. Kalia felt a strange connection to this place, as if it held secrets that could help her understand her purpose. They ventured deeper into the academy, encountering chambers filled with dust and decay. Piles of ancient tomes lay scattered throughout the vast rooms, their pages yellowed and brittle with age. Lysander led them through the corridors, searching for any clue that would guide them in their quest. As they delved further into the heart of the academy, Kalia felt a growing unease creeping over her. She could sense the presence of Raven somewhere within these walls, and she knew that their encounter was inevitable. "We must be careful," Lysander warned as they entered a massive chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings. "Raven's power is great, but together we can overcome her." As Kalia gazed upon the carvings, she couldn't help but feel a strange sense of familiarity. The images depicted a young woman standing atop stone walls, surrounded by beasts both fearsome and beautiful. It was as if she were looking into a mirror, reflecting her own destiny. Kalia felt a sudden surge of determination wash over her. She could not let the power within her falter now. With renewed purpose, she led her group through the corridors, seeking out Raven and her followers. As they neared the clearing outside the academy's stone walls, Kalia knew that their confrontation was imminent. "We must be ready," she said, addressing her companions. "Raven will not go down without a fight." The group huddled together by the fire, preparing themselves for battle. As the moon cast long shadows across the clearing, Kalia felt a strange calm settle over her. She was no longer just a woman cursed with the ability to communicate with beasts. She was the Eternal Beast-Whisperer, destined to lead humanity to salvation. The sound of hooves echoed through the night as Raven and her followers approached. Kalia steeled herself for the battle ahead, ready to prove that she could stand against even the most powerful beast leader. The fate of humanity rested on her shoulders, and she would not let them down. As Raven emerged from the darkness, her eyes locked onto Kalia's, a wicked smile spreading across her face. "You have come far, little one," she said, "but you will never surpass me." Kalia felt a surge of anger and fear within her, but she refused to let it consume her. With determination burning in her eyes, she stepped forward to meet Raven. The battle was fierce, each blow striking with the force of thunder. Kalia fought with every ounce of strength she possessed, refusing to back down despite the overwhelming power of her opponent. Suddenly, a majestic emerged from the shadows, its form shimmering with power. It stood by Kalia's side, offering its support in her battle against Raven. Together, they fought on, their connection strong enough to challenge even the most powerful beast leader. As the sun began to rise, the tide of the battle turned. With a final, decisive blow, Kalia struck Raven down. The once powerful leader lay defeated at her feet, and for the first time, Kalia felt true victory. With Raven's defeat, the other beasts that had followed her scattered, recognizing that their allegiance had been misplaced. Kalia stood tall amidst the ruins of the academy, her heart filled with pride and determination. She was the eternal beast whisperer, and she would lead humanity to a future where they could coexist peacefully with the beasts. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Lysander approached Kalia, his eyes filled with admiration. "You have shown true strength today," he said, "and I am proud to stand beside you." Kalia smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. She had faced her fears and emerged victorious, proving that even the most powerful beast leader could be defeated. With Raven's defeat, she felt hope for humanity's future begin to blossom within her heart. Together, they would rebuild their world, forging a new path where humans and beasts could live together in harmony. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desolate wastelands that had once been a bustling city. Kalia stood before ancient stone walls, her small group of survivors huddled behind her. The wind howled through the ruins as she spoke to them. "We stand on the precipice of change, my friends. Our world will never be the same, but we must not falter," Lysander interjected, his voice steady and confident. "I believe in you, Kalia. Your connection with these beasts may be our only hope for survival." Kalia clenched her fist around the knife at her waist, feeling its cold metal against her skin. She looked out towards the overgrown forest beyond the academy's stone walls, where Raven and her followers lurked. A wave of fear washed over her, but she steeled herself against it. "I will not let you down," she vowed, determination burning in her eyes. The group nodded, ready to follow their leader into the unknown. As they ventured deeper into the forest, Kalia felt a presence nearby, a familiar one. She turned slowly, her heart pounding in her chest as Raven emerged from the shadows, her severed horn held aloft. "You have made your choice, Kalia," Raven sneered, "but you will regret it." Kalia gritted her teeth, standing tall despite the fear that gripped her. She felt the connection to the beasts within her stir, and she knew she could not back down now. The two women faced off in a clearing amidst the ruins, their eyes locked as a massive beast stepped forward from the shadows behind Raven. "I will test your resolve," Raven hissed, and the beast roared, its eyes burning like embers as it charged Kalia. She drew her knife and braced herself, feeling the ground shake beneath her feet as the beast bore down on her. The two clashed in a whirlwind of fur and fangs, their struggle echoing throughout the ruined city. Finally, with a cry of triumph, Kalia struck Raven down, leaving the beast to retreat into the shadows. Her group rushed forward, their faces filled with relief as they saw their leader standing victorious amidst the ruins. "We must not rest here," Lysander said gravely. "Raven's followers will come seeking revenge. We must reach the academy and prepare for battle." The group set off once more, their steps heavy with the weight of what they had witnessed. The wind howled around them as they made their way through narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings, each one seeming to tell a story of battles fought long ago. They passed chambers filled with dust and decay, the remnants of a time before beasts ruled the land. Finally, they reached the heart of the once bustling city, where an ancient tome lay open on a stone slab. Kalia approached it cautiously, her senses tingling as she felt the power within its pages. She reached out and touched the cover, feeling a surge of energy flow through her. "This is the key," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder, "the secret to defeating Raven and bringing harmony between humans and beasts." As they delved deeper into the academy, Kelia felt a growing sense of unease. She knew that their journey was far from over, but she also knew that they had taken a crucial step towards a brighter future, and with every challenge they faced, her resolve only grew stronger. They reached the clearing outside the academy's stone walls as night fell, setting up camp by the fire. Kelia sat alone, staring into the flames as she thought about all that had transpired. She felt a newfound sense of purpose burning within her, and she knew that she would do whatever it took to fulfill the prophecy and bring peace to their world. The wind howled through the ruins once more, carrying with it the whispers of beasts long past, but Kelia did not falter. She closed her eyes, feeling the connection within her grow stronger as she prepared for the battles that lay ahead. And so, as the last remnants of humanity huddled around their fires in the desolate wastelands, they waited for the dawn of a new age, an age where beasts and humans could coexist peacefully, united under the leadership of the Eternal Beast-Whisperer. As the sun rose over the ancient city ruins, Kelia stood before her people, her heart swelling with pride. She felt a newfound strength within her, a connection to something greater than herself. The whispers of beasts filled her mind, offering guidance and support as they prepared for the final battle against Raven's followers. Lysander stood by her side, his eyes filled with determination. He had seen the power within Kelia from the beginning, and he knew that she was destined to lead them towards a brighter future. "We have come far, my friends," he said, addressing their group of survivors. "But our journey is not yet over. We must stand together and face whatever challenges lie ahead." The wind howled once more as they ventured deeper into the academy, the ancient stone walls looming before them. They moved through narrow corridors lined with decaying ruins, their footsteps echoing off the cold stone walls. As they passed through vast chambers filled with dust and decay, Kelia felt a growing sense of unease. Suddenly, they came upon a massive chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings. In the center stood Raven, surrounded by her followers. Her eyes burned with rage as she saw Kelia and her group enter the room. "You thought you could defeat me?" she sneered, her voice dripping with venom. "You are nothing but a pawn in this game." Kalia's heart raced as she stared at Raven, feeling the connection to the beasts within her stir. She knew that she must confront her enemy and end this conflict once and for all. "I am no longer your pawn," she replied defiantly. "I am the Beast Whisperer, and I will lead us towards a future where humans and beasts can coexist peacefully." Raven laughed, her eyes narrowing as she considered Kalia's words. "Very well," she said, snapping her fingers. "Let us see if you are truly worthy of your title." A massive beast stepped forward from the shadows, its eyes burning with an otherworldly fire. It roared, shaking the very walls of the ancient academy as it charged towards Kelia and her group. They braced themselves for impact, feeling the ground shake beneath their feet as the beast bore down on them. In that moment, Kelia felt a surge of power coursing through her veins. She closed her eyes, focusing on the connection within her as she called out to the beasts, summoning their aid in the battle against Raven's forces. The wind howled around them as beasts emerged from the shadows, joining forces with Kelia and her group. The air was filled with roars and cries of fury as the battle raged on. Kelia fought alongside the beasts, feeling a newfound sense of unity between their kind. Together they pushed Raven's followers back, driving them towards the heart of the academy. Finally, Raven stood alone, her followers defeated and scattered. Kelia approached her slowly, feeling the connection within her grow stronger as she prepared to make her final move. "You have fought well," Raven said, her voice heavy with defeat, "but you will not succeed." Kelia raised her knife, feeling the power of the beasts coursing through her veins. She lunged forward, striking Raven down with a cry of triumph. The massive beast retreated into the shadows once more, leaving Kalia standing victorious amidst the ruins. Her group rushed forward, their faces filled with relief as they saw their leader standing tall and victorious. Lysander approached her, his eyes filled with pride and admiration. "You have done it, Kaelia," he said softly. "You have united humans and beasts towards a brighter future." Kalia smiled, feeling the connection within her grow stronger, as she realized that her purpose had finally been fulfilled. She knew that there would still be challenges ahead, but she also knew that they could face them together. With Raven's defeat, a new era was dawning for both humans and beasts alike. As the sun set over the ancient academy ruins, Kaelia stood before her people, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. She had faced her fears and doubts, and she had emerged stronger than ever before. Together, they would rebuild their world, forging a future where humans and beasts could coexist in harmony. And as the wind howled through the ruins, carrying with it the whispers of beasts long past, Kaelia knew that she was destined to lead them towards a brighter tomorrow. The eternal beast whisperer had risen, and the world would never be the same again. The sun rose over the ancient city ruins as Kaelia stood before her people, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. She looked out across the clearing amidst the remains of their once bustling home, feeling a profound sadness at the loss they had all endured. But she also felt hope, knowing that they could rebuild and forge a new future together. Lysander stood beside her, his eyes filled with admiration as he watched Kalia address her people. He had seen the power within her from the beginning, and he knew that she was destined to lead them towards a brighter tomorrow. "We have come far," Kalia said, her voice steady and strong, "but our journey is not yet over. We must rebuild our world and forge a new future where humans and beasts can coexist peacefully." Her words were met with nods of agreement from the gathered survivors. They knew that it would not be easy, but they also knew that Kalia was the one to lead them towards a brighter tomorrow. As they set out to rebuild their world, Kaelia felt a newfound sense of purpose within her. She knew that there would still be challenges ahead, but she also knew that they could face them together. With Raven's defeat, they had taken a crucial step towards a brighter future. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers amidst the desolate wastelands, the once bustling city ruins served as a grim reminder of what humanity had lost. Kaelia's small group huddled around a roaring fire, weary and worn from their relentless journey. The massive beast stood guard nearby, its powerful form radiating an air of silent protection. Lysander, Kaelia's mentor, approached her, his eyes filled with concern. "Kaelia," he began, "we have scouted the academy and found it infested with Raven's followers. We must move swiftly if we are to catch them off guard." Kaelia nodded, her resolve strengthening as she gazed into the fire. "I understand. I will face Raven once more, but this time I will not let her escape." With their plans in place, they set out towards the academy's stone walls, the massive beast leading the charge. As they approached, Kaelia felt a familiar chill run down her spine. The ancient stone walls loomed before them, etched with intricate carvings depicting scenes of great battles between humans and beasts. The narrow corridors lined with decaying ruins echoed their footsteps as they ventured deeper into the academy. The air was thick with tension, and Kaelia's heart raced within her chest. She could sense the presence of Raven and her followers lurking nearby, waiting to strike. As they entered a vast chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings, the silence was broken by the sound of rustling leaves. A figure stepped out from the shadows, holding Raven's severed horn in its hand. "I see you found my gift," Raven taunted, her voice cold and malicious. Kaelia clenched her knife at her waist, her eyes never leaving Raven. "You will not escape this time," she growled. Raven laughed, revealing a cruel smile. "We shall see, young whisperer." The two sides faced off in the dimly lit corridor, their tension palpable. Kalia could feel the power coursing through her veins as the massive beast stood ready at her side, its eyes fixed on Raven. As they engaged in a fierce battle, Kalia found herself tested in ways she never thought possible. Her connection to the beasts gave her strength, but it also made her vulnerable to Raven's manipulations. The fight was brutal and intense, neither side willing to back down. In the end, it was Kalia who emerged victorious, Raven lying defeated at her feet. The victory tasted bitter in her mouth, her heart heavy with the knowledge of all that had been lost. But she knew this was not the end. It was merely a stepping stone on the path to salvation. By the fire in a small clearing, the group huddled together, sharing stories and offering words of encouragement. The embers flickered, casting dancing shadows on Kalia's face as she stared into the flames. Her heart was heavy with guilt, her mind racing with thoughts of the past and the sacrifices made to reach this point. Lysander, she whispered, summoning the wise strategist. He approached, concern etched across his face. I have a vision of Raven. Back when we first met, Lysander knelt beside her, listening intently. Tell me, Kalia, every detail counts in understanding our enemy. As Kalia shared the memories that haunted her, Lysander's eyes widened with realization. She was once a human, wasn't she? He asked quietly. And she became the leader of these beasts. What happened to change her? I do not know, Kalia admitted, her voice trembling. But it seems we may have more in common than I thought. The group sat in silence as Kalia's story echoed through their minds. They knew they stood at a turning point, one that would test their resolve and unity. With renewed determination, they prepared to face whatever lay ahead. In the heart of the once bustling city, the narrow corridors seemed to whisper secrets long forgotten as they delved deeper into the academy. The dimly lit passages were lined with intricate stone carvings that spoke of powerful magic and ancient knowledge. Kalia's senses twitched with each step, her connection to the beasts growing stronger as they ventured further in search of Raven. The group entered a vast chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings depicting scenes of transformation and predatory evolution. A sense of anticipation hung heavy in the air, as if they were stepping into a place where the future of their world would be decided. In the center of the chamber stood a massive stone slab upon which rested an imposing tome that seemed to pulse with energy. Kalia approached cautiously, her hand on the hilt of her knife. As she touched the cover, she felt a surge of power coursing through her veins. She knew instinctively that this was no ordinary book, but a key to unlocking the Academy's hidden curriculum. A way for humanity to evolve into powerful beasts and survive the impending apocalypse. As they prepared to uncover the secrets within, they were suddenly confronted by Raven herself, her body twisted and grotesque from her transformation into a monstrous beast. She held Kalia's severed horn in one clawed hand, a cruel grin on her face. The air crackled with tension as Kalia faced off against the powerful creature who once shared her humanity. The battle was fierce and brutal, both sides testing their limits in a dance of strength and cunning. Raven's followers attacked from all sides, but Kalia held her ground, drawing on the power within her to protect her allies. The fight spilled out into the clearing outside the Academy's stone walls as the sun set, casting long shadows over the desolate landscape. In the end, it was Kalia who stood victorious, Raven defeated at her feet. Lysander helped her to her feet, his eyes filled with pride and concern. You have come far, Kalia, he said quietly, but our journey is far from over. As dawn broke over the ancient ruins, Kalia stood tall amidst the wreckage, her heart heavy but hopeful. She knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay before her. With her group at her side, she vowed to lead humanity into a future where they could coexist peacefully with their monstrous allies. In the distant horizon, the first light of day revealed a new path forward, one that would test their strength, challenge their beliefs, and ultimately decide the fate of their world. Together, Kelia and her group set out to forge a new future, determined to overcome the darkness that threatened to consume them all. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers, in the heart of the once bustling city, Kelia stood before Raven and her followers. An army of beasts gathered behind them. The air crackled with tension as the two leaders faced off, each trying to outmaneuver the other. Lysander, standing by Kalia's side, shared a worried look with his protégé. "You've come far, young one," Raven sneered, her voice dripping with contempt. "But I will crush you beneath my boot heel and claim your power for myself." Kelia clenched her fists, the knuckles turning white as she fought to control her anger. The connection with the beasts buzzed within her like 1,000 tiny fires, urging her to give in to the primal rage that threatened to consume her. But Lysander's voice cut through the chaos, reminding her of her purpose and the future she was fighting for. "Kelia," he said softly, "you were meant for more than this." With a deep breath, she steeled herself and met Raven's gaze. "I won't let you take what is mine," Kelia declared, her voice strong and clear. The battle that ensued was fierce and brutal, each side determined to emerge victorious. Beasts roared and clashed, their bodies slamming into one another with the force of 1,000 thunderous strikes. Raven's followers fought with a ferocity born from desperation, but Kelia matched them blow for blow. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, Kelia found herself face to face with Raven once more. The beast leader lunged at her, claws extended, and Kelia dodged, twisting away just in time to avoid being slashed open. She retaliated with a swift strike of her own, her blade flashing through the air as it sliced through Raven's hide. The beast leader roared in pain, but Kelia didn't falter. Instead, she pressed the attack, driving Raven back and weakening her with each blow. The connection with the beasts surged within her, their strength flowing through her veins as she fought to end this conflict once and for all. With a final, powerful strike, Kelia brought her blade down upon Raven's neck, severing her head from her body. The beast leader's followers let out a collective cry of mourning and disbelief as they watched their leader fall. Kelia stood tall amidst the chaos, her heart pounding in her chest as she surveyed the battlefield. "It is over," she called out to her allies. "Raven is dead. Our battle for survival continues, but we have won this day." As the sun set upon the ancient city ruins, Kelia stood atop the stone walls surveying the desolation below. The once bustling metropolis now lay in ruins, its towering structures crumbling under the weight of time and neglect. She turned to Lysander and Raven's severed horn, her heart heavy with grief and sorrow. "We did it," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind. "But I can't help but feel empty." Lysander looked at her, his gaze filled with understanding. "It was a victory, Kelia. But we must not dwell on the past. The future awaits us, and there is much work to be done." The group gathered around the roaring fire, sharing stories of their individual struggles and triumphs as they prepared for the journey ahead. As they spoke, Kelia felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. She glanced at the academy's stone walls, the pulsing energy from the imposing tomes still lingering in her mind. "We must return to the academy," she said, breaking the silence. "I feel it calling to me. I believe there is something there that can help us." The group nodded, understanding the weight of Kelia's words. They packed their belongings and set out towards the academy, following a narrow corridor lined with intricate stone carvings depicting scenes from ancient times. As they walked, Kelia could feel the power within her growing stronger, urging her to continue onward. As they approached the massive chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings, Kelia's heart raced. She felt an inexplicable connection to this place, as if it held the key to unlocking the hidden curriculum of the academy. They ventured deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, their footsteps echoing off the stone walls. Suddenly, a roar echoed through the halls, causing Kelia's blood to run cold. She drew her knife from her waist and steeled herself for battle as they rounded a corner. only to find themselves face to face with a massive beast unlike any they had ever encountered before. Its eyes burned like molten lava, and its body seemed almost ethereal in the dim light. The group stood frozen in fear, unsure of how to proceed. Kalia closed her eyes, feeling the connection between her and the beast deepen. She took a deep breath and spoke softly, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "What do you want from us?" The beast snarled, its body tensing as it prepared for attack. But then, to everyone's surprise, it lowered its head in submission. Kalia felt a surge of power coursing through her veins as she realized the truth. This was no ordinary beast. It was an avatar of the ancient magic that had once ruled these lands. "You seek the power within," the beast rumbled, its voice deep and resonant, "but it is not for you alone. You must learn to control your abilities, or you will be consumed by them." Kalia nodded, understanding the wisdom in the beast's words. She knew that her connection to the beasts was a gift meant to restore balance to their world, but she also understood that with great power came great responsibility. As they made their way back to their campsite, Kalia felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. The journey ahead would be difficult, and there would surely be more challenges to face, but she was ready to embrace them. She looked at the stars above, feeling the weight of destiny resting on her shoulders. "We've come too far to turn back now," she said, her voice strong and resolute. "I will lead us into a future where humanity can coexist peacefully with their monstrous allies." Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. In the desolate wastelands, Kalia's small group of survivors stumbled upon an ancient academy concealed by overgrown foliage. As they approached its stone walls, a sense of foreboding enveloped them. The air crackled with untapped magic, and the once bustling city lay silent behind the academy's walls. Kalia felt a strange connection to this place, as if it held secrets that could help her understand her affliction better. She shared her thoughts with Lysander, who nodded in agreement. They knew they had found something important. The group ventured into the academy, navigating dimly lit corridors lined with intricate stone carvings depicting scenes of beasts and humans living together harmoniously. The air grew thicker with magic as they delved deeper into the ancient structure. Suddenly, Kalia's senses were overwhelmed by a presence that seemed to pulse through the very walls around them. She heard whispers in her mind, the voices of beasts echoing their thoughts and desires. The whispers grew louder and more insistent until she could no longer ignore them. A massive beast emerged from the shadows, towering over the group with eyes that seemed to bore into Kalia's very soul. It was unlike any creature she had ever encountered before, its body a swirling vortex of power and fury. The beast roared, shaking the academy's ancient stone walls to their core. Kalia felt a familiar anger rising within her, fueled by the whispers in her mind. She reached for her knife at her waist, ready to defend herself and those she cared about. But Lysander stepped between them, his eyes filled with determination. "We do not fight beasts," he said calmly, addressing the massive creature. "We seek knowledge and understanding." The beast's roar subsided, and it seemed to consider Lysander's words for a moment before speaking in a deep, gravelly voice. "You have come far, human," it rumbled. "But you are not yet ready to understand the truth behind your curse." The beast offered them a challenge, a test of resolve that would determine whether they were worthy of its guidance. Kalia hesitated, feeling the weight of the decision upon her shoulders. Lysander's gaze never left the massive beast as he spoke. "We accept," he said firmly. "Lead us to your test." The academy seemed to come alive around them, guiding them through narrow corridors and vast chambers filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings. The air crackled with magic, and Kalia felt a strange sense of purpose growing within her. She could feel the whispers in her mind subsiding, replaced by a newfound clarity. In a clearing outside the academy's stone walls, they found their test, a massive stone slab upon which lay an imposing tome bound in the severed horn of Raven, the powerful beast leader they had encountered earlier. Kalia felt a shiver run down her spine at the sight of it. To unlock its secrets, Lysander explained, we must open this tome. As Kalia reached for the ancient book, she could hear Raven's voice in her mind, a taunting reminder of their earlier confrontation and the betrayal that followed. But she steeled herself against the whispers, focusing on the task at hand. With a deep breath, she lifted the tome and felt a surge of power flow through her veins. The stone slab began to crackle with magic as Kalia opened the tome, revealing pages filled with cryptic runes and diagrams that seemed to dance before her eyes. Inside the tome, Kalia found answers to questions she had never dared ask, about her curse, about the prophecy, and about the true nature of her connection to the beasts. As she delved deeper into its secrets, she began to understand that her curse was not a punishment, but a gift meant to restore balance between humans and monstrous allies. With newfound resolve, Kalia closed the tome, feeling a sense of purpose fill her heart. She knew that their journey had only just begun, but she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With Lysander by her side, they would lead humanity towards a brighter tomorrow where humans and beasts could coexist peacefully. The massive beast watched them, seemingly satisfied with their progress. It spoke again, its voice echoing through the clearing. You have proven yourselves worthy, it said. But remember, balance is fragile, and power must be wielded carefully. As the group made their way back to their campsite, Kalia felt a newfound confidence in her abilities. She knew that they still faced many challenges ahead, but she was determined to face them head-on. With Lysander by her side and the ancient knowledge of the Academy at her fingertips, she felt ready to take on anything. The whispering beasts seemed to fade away as they left the Academy behind, leaving Kalia with a sense of peace that she had never before experienced. She knew that their journey would not be easy, but she was determined to lead humanity towards coexistence with their monstrous allies and restore balance to the world. The end came suddenly, as if the very air around them was being torn apart. A familiar roar echoed through the air, and Kalia knew that Raven had found them. With a sense of urgency, they quickly gathered their belongings and fled into the forest, knowing that their lives depended on it. As they ran, Kalia felt the whispers in her mind growing louder once more, the voices of beasts calling out for help. She clutched Lysander's hand tighter, feeling a sense of determination rise within her. They would face Raven and her followers, but they would not be defeated. Kalia felt a strange calmness wash over her as she prepared for battle, a feeling that she had never before experienced in the midst of danger. With Lysander by her side, Kalia knew that they could overcome any obstacle. They had come far and faced many challenges, but they had never given up. And now, as they stood ready to face Raven and her followers, they felt more determined than ever. The battle raged on, the roar of beasts and clash of steel filling the air. Kalia fought with all her might, channeling the power within her into every strike. She could feel the whispers in her mind growing louder, urging her onward. In the midst of the chaos, she caught sight of Raven, her eyes filled with anger and a fierce determination. Kalia knew that this was the moment she had been waiting for, the chance to prove herself worthy of her curse. With a cry of defiance, Kalia charged towards Raven, blade in hand. The massive beast loomed behind her, its eyes glowing with power and fury. But Kalia did not falter. She felt a strange calmness within her as she faced down the most powerful beast in existence. The battle was long and brutal, but eventually Kalia emerged victorious. Raven lay defeated at her feet, her horn shattered and her followers scattered. The whispers in Kalia's mind quieted as she stood over the fallen beast leader, feeling a sense of triumph wash over her. She looked down at Raven, seeing the pain and anger in her eyes. She knew that this was not the end for either of them. Their fates were still intertwined. bound by the ancient prophecy and the delicate balance between humans and beasts. But for now, Kaelia felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had faced her greatest fear, and she had emerged stronger than ever before. With Lysander by her side, she knew that they could face anything that came their way. As the sun set over the desolate wastelands, Kaelia and her group made their way back to their campsite. They were tired, battered and bruised, but they felt alive in a way they had never before experienced. They had faced their fears and emerged victorious, and they knew that the journey ahead would only grow more difficult. But Kaelia felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. She had discovered the truth behind her curse and understood its purpose. With Lysander's guidance, she was determined to lead humanity towards coexistence with their monstrous allies and restore balance to the world. In the heart of what was once a bustling city, Kaelia and her small group of survivors huddled around a roaring fire, their faces illuminated by flickering flames. The ancient stone walls loomed behind them, casting long shadows that danced and twisted in the wind. Lysander, the human strategist, stood tall, his gaze fixed on Kaelia as she studied the severed horn held in her hands. The imposing tome was bound within its center, a testament to Raven's power and a reminder of their recent victory. "The knowledge you possess is precious," Lysander said, his voice calm and steady. "But it comes at a price." Kaelia clutched the horn tightly, her eyes wide with fear and determination. "I know. I'm not afraid anymore. I will lead us to salvation." Lysander nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "I believe in you, Kaelia, but we must be cautious. Raven will not give up easily." "I know," she murmured, her gaze never leaving the horn. "But I won't let her claim my power." As they sat by the fire, a distant growl echoed through the ruins. Kaelia tensed, her heart pounding in her chest. Lysander stood and faced the sound. "It seems our visitor has arrived." A massive beast emerged from the labyrinthine corridors, its eyes fixed on them with an intensity that sent shivers down their spines. It was larger than any they had encountered before, a towering monstrosity of muscle and fang. Kaelia's grip tightened on the horn as she stood, her anger rising. "I will not let you take this from me," the beast roared, its challenge clear in the air. Kaelia met its gaze, a fierce determination burning within her eyes. With a deep breath, she raised the severed horn high, unleashing a torrent of power that shook the ancient stone walls around them. The beast let out a howl of pain and recoiled, its body writhing in agony. Kaelia's group watched in awe as Kaelia stood tall, her connection to the beasts clear for all to see. Lysander's eyes shone with pride and admiration. "You are truly becoming the Beast Whisperer," he said, his voice filled with reverence. "But remember, this is only the beginning." The beast slowly retreated, its body still writhing in pain as it disappeared into the darkness of the city ruins. Kaelia stood, her heart pounding with a newfound sense of purpose. "We have a long journey ahead," she said, her voice steady and strong. "But we will not stop until we restore balance to this world." Lysander nodded, his gaze never leaving the retreating figure of the massive beast. "I stand by your side, Kaelia. Together we will lead humanity towards a brighter future." Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. In the heart of the once bustling city, Kaelia stood atop ancient stone walls, staring out at the vast chambers filled with decaying ruins that stretched before her like a labyrinth. Her knife at her waist, she felt both powerful and vulnerable as the weight of her newfound abilities pressed heavily upon her shoulders. "Kaelia," Lysander called from below, urging her to descend the narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings. "We must find answers." She took a deep breath, steeled herself and began her descent. The dimly lit corridors echoed with ancient whispers as she ventured deeper into the city's forgotten depths. "Lysander," Kaelia said as they entered an empty chamber filled with dust and decay. "What do you think this place was?" "It was once a library," Lysander replied, examining the ancient tomes on stone slabs. a repository of knowledge long lost to time. Kaelia approached a massive tome bound in the severed horn of Raven. She hesitated before touching it, sensing its power pulsating beneath her fingertips. "Don't," Lysander warned, stepping between her and the tome. "We don't know what secrets lie within." As they continued their exploration, the ground began to tremble, echoing through the abandoned city. A roar shook the very walls around them as a massive beast emerged from the shadows, its eyes locked onto Kaelia. The group stood frozen in fear, but Kaelia found herself unable to move. Her heart raced as she felt Raven's voice within her mind, mocking her. "So, you have summoned me? Why did I do that?" Kaelia cried out, struggling against the beast's presence. Lysander stepped forward, determination etched upon his face. "Because deep down, you know it's time to face your destiny." With a surge of strength, Kaelia pushed Raven's presence away and turned her gaze on the beast before her. It roared in anger, charging towards them with terrifying speed. The group fought for their lives against the monstrous creature, their weapons ringing out as they struggled to hold it back. Finally, Kaelia felt a surge of power coursing through her veins, and she let loose a cry that echoed throughout the ruins. With a burst of speed, she dodged the beast's attack and struck it with all her might, causing it to stumble. The other members of her group managed to take advantage of the opening, and together they drove the beast back. It howled in rage as it retreated, disappearing back into the shadows from which it had emerged. Kaelia collapsed onto the ground, panting heavily. "What have I done?" she cried out, tears streaming down her face. Lysander knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You've made your choice," he said softly. "Now we must move forward." As they continued their journey through the ruins, Kaelia couldn't shake the feeling that she had only just scratched the surface of what lay ahead. She knew that the path to salvation would not be easy, but she was determined to face whatever challenges came her way. Kaelia and Lysander traversed the labyrinthine corridors of the ancient city, weary from their battle against the monstrous beast. Their small group, composed of other human survivors, trudged along behind them, eyes filled with hope and determination. The dimly lit corridors seemed to stretch on for miles, lined with intricate stone carvings depicting scenes of war and victory, as well as images that hinted at an ancient power long forgotten. Kaelia's heart raced as she scanned the walls, her fingers tracing the lines of the carvings, searching for clues about their quest. "We must be close," Lysander said, breaking the silence. "The academy lies just beyond these ruins." As they approached a vast chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings, Kaelia's heart skipped a beat. The sight of the massive beast bound in Raven's severed horn atop an imposing tome sent chills down her spine. "The academy," she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've found it." Lysander nodded solemnly. "This is where our destiny awaits us. We must be cautious and vigilant. The road ahead will not be easy." None? Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. In the dimly lit corridors, Kaelia felt the weight of the severed horn pressing against her back as she followed Lysander and her companions through the labyrinthine halls. The once bustling city was now a grim testament to its fallen glory, its walls lined with decaying ruins. "This is the academy," Lysander whispered, his eyes scanning the ancient carvings etched into the stone. "The place where humanity sought refuge and salvation." Kaelia glanced around nervously. "But it seems we're not alone." Her companions nodded in agreement. The air was thick with tension as they continued onward, the echoes of their footsteps bouncing off the stone walls. As they approached a clearing, a sudden growl shattered the silence. A massive beast stepped from behind an ancient stone wall, its eyes fixed on Kaelia. The creature roared, sending tremors through the ground beneath them. Lysander, recognizing the danger, quickly moved to engage the beast. "Kaelia, stay back," he shouted. But Kaelia could not resist the allure of her affliction. She stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest as she called out to the beast in a trembling voice. "I do not wish to fight you," she said, addressing the towering creature. "We are not enemies." The beast hesitated, its eyes meeting Kalia's for a moment before it lunged at them. Lysander and his companions fought valiantly, their weapons clanging against the stone walls as they tried to fend off the relentless attack. Kalia found herself trapped amidst the chaos, her fear giving way to determination. She closed her eyes, focusing on her connection to the beast. With a surge of power, she sent a mental message, pleading for it to stop its assault. The creature reeled back, its growls subsiding into a low rumble. It seemed to understand her words. For a moment the air was still, and all that could be heard were the quiet whispers of the wind. "We mean you no harm," Kalia said, addressing the beast once more. "Together, we can find a way to coexist." The beast seemed to consider her words before it nodded slowly. With a final, rumbling growl, it retreated back into the shadows from which it came. As the dust settled, Kalia looked around at her companions. They were exhausted and battered, but they stood tall amidst the ruins. She felt a strange sense of pride swell within her chest, followed by a deep sadness. This was just one battle in a war that seemed endless. But she knew they had made a connection with the beast, a step towards the prophecy's fulfillment. With renewed resolve, Kalia turned to Lysander. "We have much work ahead of us," she said, her voice steady. "But I believe we can find a way to save humanity." Lysander nodded, his eyes meeting hers. "I believe you're right, Kalia. Together, we will make it through this." As they ventured deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the decaying academy, Kalia felt an ominous presence growing nearer. The air grew thick and oppressive, causing her heart to race. Suddenly, a powerful beast emerged from the shadows, Raven, the leader of all beasts who sought dominance over humanity. Raven's eyes narrowed as she took in Kalia and her group. "So," she growled, "the one they call the Beast Whisperer. I have heard much about you." Kalia swallowed hard, her grip tightening on the knife at her waist. "What do you want from me?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. "I want your power," Raven replied, her voice dripping with venom. "But first, I will test your resolve." As they stood face to face in the dimly lit corridor, Kalia felt a surge of determination rise within her. She was not a beast's plaything. She was meant for something greater. With Lysander by her side, she would find a way to overcome this new challenge and continue on her path towards fulfilling the prophecy. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the desolate wastelands that were once bustling cities. Kalia, Lysander, and their small group of survivors huddled around a roaring fire, trying to ward off the creeping chill of the night air. "We cannot rest here for long," Lysander said, his voice low but firm as he broke the silence. "The academy is our best chance at survival." Kalia nodded, her eyes scanning the distant stone walls that marked the entrance to the decaying institution. She clutched the knife at her waist, feeling its familiar weight against her thigh. A sense of unease gnawed at her as she recalled their encounter with Raven and her followers. "We must be prepared for anything," Kalia whispered, her voice barely audible above the crackling fire. "I fear Raven still seeks to claim my power." Lysander's gaze never left the firelight flickering across his face as he replied, "You've grown stronger since our encounter with Raven. You are no longer a passive pawn in her game. But I am not invincible," Kalia countered, her voice tinged with vulnerability. She stared into the flames, lost in thought. "Raven is powerful and cunning. If she sets her sights on us again, we may not survive." Lysander reached out, placing a reassuring hand over hers. "You have allies, Kalia. We stand together against Raven and her followers." He paused, his eyes meeting hers. "Together, we will find a way to stop her." Kalia gave him a small smile, grateful for the strength she found in his words. The fire danced in her eyes as she rose to her feet, determination etched across her features. "Then let us prepare ourselves for whatever lies ahead," she said, her voice steady and unwavering. The group rose as one, their resolve hardened by the flickering light of the fire. They knew that their journey was far from over. They had only begun to navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the decaying academy, but together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead and emerge stronger for it. The following day, as the sun rose over the desolate landscape, Kelia led her companions through the narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings. The ancient walls seemed to whisper secrets long lost to time, their echoes stirring something deep within Kelia's heart. She felt a strange connection to this place, as if it were somehow tied to the prophecy that had haunted her dreams since childhood. As they ventured deeper into the academy, they encountered empty chambers filled with dust and decay, their once grandeur now reduced to mere shadows of their former glory. Kelia could feel the weight of history pressing down upon them, the stories of those who had come before echoing through the air like distant memories. The group pressed on, their determination unwavering as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the decaying academy. In one chamber, they discovered an ancient tome bound in the severed horn of Raven, its pages filled with cryptic symbols and arcane knowledge. Kelia felt a shiver run down her spine as she stared at the imposing tome, a sense of foreboding settling over her. "We cannot linger here," Lysander said, his voice barely audible above the silence. "We must press on if we are to find answers." Kelia nodded, her gaze never leaving the tome as they continued their journey through the academy's twisting corridors. The weight of what lay ahead pressed down upon them, a constant reminder that danger lurked around every corner. But they pushed forward, driven by the hope that the answers they sought might be found within these ancient walls. As they ventured deeper into the academy, Kelia's senses began to tingle, her connection to the beasts growing stronger with each step. She could feel their presence all around them, like a living force pulsating throughout the decaying structure. Her heart raced as she realized that they were not alone within these ancient halls. As they rounded a corner, Kelia's senses were suddenly overwhelmed by an immense presence. The air crackled with energy, and Kelia felt a surge of fear course through her veins. She turned to Lysander, her eyes wide with terror as she whispered, "The beast, it's here." Lysander tensed, his hand instinctively reaching for the knife at his waist as he scanned the dimly lit corridors. He could sense the massive creature lurking in the shadows, its power radiating through the walls like a living force. "We must be cautious," Lysander said, his voice low and steady as he led them back towards the entrance of the academy. "We cannot face this beast unprepared." The group moved carefully, their hearts pounding in their chests as they made their way through the narrow corridors. Kelia could feel the beast's presence growing stronger with each step, its power a living entity that seemed to stalk them from the darkness. As they reached the clearing outside the academy's stone walls, Kelia paused, her senses straining to catch even the faintest hint of movement. She could hear the faint rustling of leaves and the distant growl of the massive beast. A sense of dread settled over her as she realized that it had been tracking them all along. "We cannot wait here," Lysander said, his voice barely audible above the silence. "We must find shelter and prepare ourselves for battle." Kelia nodded, her gaze locked onto the darkness beyond the stone walls. She could feel the beast's power building, its intent clear. It sought to destroy them all, but she refused to give in to fear. Instead, she drew upon the strength within herself, the connection to the beasts that had once tormented her now a source of power and courage. As they made their way through the ancient forest, Kelia felt a strange calm settle over her. She knew that they were walking into the heart of darkness, but she also knew that they would not face this beast alone. Lysander was by her side, his unwavering faith in her ability to lead them giving her the strength to press on. They found shelter in a small clearing, its branches providing some respite from the encroaching darkness. Kalia knelt by the fire she had kindled, her thoughts swirling as she prepared for battle. She could feel the weight of what lay ahead, the knowledge that they would have to confront the beast if they were to survive. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the desolate landscape, Kalia knew that their fate hung in the balance. They had come so far on this journey, and yet they still faced their greatest challenge, the massive beast that stalked them through the Academy's ancient halls. But she refused to back down. Instead, she stood tall, her eyes locked onto the darkness beyond the firelight. "We face our fate together," Kalia said, her voice strong and determined as she looked at Lysander. "And we will emerge victorious." Lysander smiled, his hand reaching out to grasp hers. Together, they stood united against the darkness that threatened their world. As one, they prepared themselves for the battle that awaited them in the heart of the decaying academy. The following morning, as the sun rose over the desolate landscape, Kalia and her companions ventured forth into the darkness. They knew that the beast lay before them, its power a living force that pulsated throughout the ancient stone walls of the academy. But they refused to be intimidated by its might. As they made their way through the labyrinthine corridors, Kalia felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. She could feel the beast's presence all around them, but she also felt a connection to it, a bond that transcended fear and hatred. This creature was not an enemy, it was a part of her, a reminder of the power she wielded as the Eternal Beast-Whisperer. When they finally stood before the massive beast, Kalia could feel its immense power radiating throughout the chamber. Its eyes met hers, and she felt a strange sense of recognition, as if it too understood the bond that connected them, but she refused to be overwhelmed by its might. Instead, she drew upon the strength within herself, the connection to the beasts that had once tormented her, now a source of power and courage. As they faced off against the beast, Kalia knew that this was the moment they had been preparing for since their encounter with Raven. They stood united, their resolve unwavering as they prepared themselves for battle. Lysander stood by her side, his hand resting on the knife at her waist, a silent reminder of his faith in her ability to lead them. The battle was fierce and brutal, the air crackling with energy as Kalia and the beast clashed in a dance of power and fury. But she refused to back down. Instead, she drew upon the strength within herself, the connection to the beasts that had once tormented her, now a source of power and courage. As they fought, Kalia could feel the bond between them growing stronger, a living force that transcended the boundaries of flesh and blood. It was then that she realized the truth. This creature was not an enemy, it was a part of her, a reminder of the power she wielded as the Eternal Beast-Whisperer. With a final surge of strength, Kalia struck the killing blow, the beast collapsing to the ground at her feet. She stood there for a moment, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she stared down at the massive creature that lay before her. For a brief moment, she felt a strange sense of sorrow wash over her, but then she steeled herself, knowing that this was the price they had to pay for their survival. As they made their way back through the ancient academy and out into the desolate landscape, Kalia could feel the weight of what they had accomplished settling upon her shoulders. They had faced their greatest challenge, and they had emerged victorious. But she knew that their journey was far from over. They still had much to learn about themselves and the world around them. As they made camp that night by the fire, Kalia could feel a strange sense of peace wash over her. She looked at Lysander, his face illuminated by the flickering flames, and knew that she had found a kindred spirit in him. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, their bond unbroken and unyielding. "We have faced our greatest challenge," Kalia whispered, her voice barely audible above the crackling fire. "But we will not rest here." Lysander smiled, his hand reaching out to grasp hers. Together they stood united against the darkness that threatened their world. their resolve unwavering as they prepared themselves for whatever lay ahead. As they ventured forth into the unknown, Kalia knew that she had found her purpose, to lead humanity and the beasts in a quest for salvation. And though the road would be long and fraught with danger, she refused to falter, for she was the eternal beast whisperer, and she would not let fear or doubt stand in her way. And so, with Lysander by her side and a newfound sense of purpose coursing through her veins, Kalia set out to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would forge a new path through the decaying world, their bond unbroken and their spirits undaunted. The group emerged from the dimly lit corridors into a vast chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings that glowed faintly in the darkness. The air was thick with dust and decay, but the weight of history hung heavy in this place as well. Kalia's heart raced as she felt the whispers of countless beasts echoing through her mind. "We are here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She stepped forward, tracing her fingers over the carvings that adorned the chamber walls. They seemed to pulse with energy beneath her touch, and she could feel their stories call out to her. Lysander followed close behind, studying the carvings with a keen eye. "This is where it all began," he murmured, his voice reverberating off the stone walls. "The first humans sought knowledge here, power they believed would protect them from the beasts. And what about us?" Kalia asked, turning to face him. "What are we seeking here?" Lysander looked at her with a measured gaze. "We seek understanding, Kalia. We need to know who we were, and who we can become if we are to stand against Raven." The group continued deeper into the chamber, their footsteps echoing through the vast space. They moved cautiously, aware of the weight of history bearing down on them. In the center of the room stood an imposing tome bound in the severed horn of Raven. It seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and Kalia felt the whispers grow louder as they approached it. "This is where we find our answers," Lysander said, stepping forward to grasp the ancient text. He carefully lifted it from its stone pedestal, the weight of the massive tome threatening to pull him off balance. "We will uncover the truth about your curse and Raven's ambitions." Kalia stared at the book in Lysander's hands, feeling a strange mixture of dread and anticipation coursing through her veins. She knew that the answers they sought were hidden within its pages, but she couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. As they settled down to read by the flickering light of the roaring fire, Kalia wondered if they were truly prepared for what lay ahead. As night fell upon them, the group huddled around the fire engrossed in the ancient tome's cryptic texts. The whispers grew louder within Kalia's mind as she listened to Lysander read aloud from the massive book bound in Raven's severed horn. "It speaks of an ancient prophecy," Lysander said, running his fingers over the worn pages. "The eternal beast-whisperer shall rise when humanity teeters on the brink of extinction and unite beasts and humans under one banner to restore balance to the world." Kalia felt her heart race at his words, a fire burning within her that could not be quenched. She knew now that she was meant for this purpose, but she also knew that it would not come easy. "We must be careful," Lysander warned, his voice barely above a whisper. "The prophecy mentions a great trial, one that will test the resolve of those who seek to bring balance. I will face whatever comes my way," Kalia declared, standing tall and proud. "I am ready for this journey." Lysander nodded solemnly, his eyes never leaving hers. "Then we shall begin our quest together." The group set out towards the heart of the once bustling city, following Lysander's lead as they navigated through the narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings. They moved carefully, aware of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Kalia could feel the whispers of beasts growing stronger as they approached their destination, and she knew that this trial would not be an easy one. As they reached the clearing outside the academy's stone walls, Kalia felt a sudden surge of fear wash over her. She looked around at her companions, their faces etched with determination and resolve. and she realized that she was not alone in this struggle. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead and find a way to restore balance to the world. With renewed purpose, Kaelia stepped forward, ready to embrace her destiny as the Eternal Beast-Whisperer. As the first rays of dawn broke through the clouds, she knew that their journey had truly begun. In the days that followed, Kaelia and her companions ventured deeper into the ancient city, facing off against creatures that sought to stand in their way. They moved with purpose, driven by a shared goal: to unite beasts and humans under one banner and restore balance to the world. As they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the decaying academy, Kaelia felt the whispers grow louder within her mind. She knew that the time was drawing near for her to face Raven and claim her place as the Eternal Beast-Whisperer. But first, she needed to learn more about her curse and the prophecy that foretold her rise. In a small clearing amidst the ruins, Kaelia sat down with Lysander to study the ancient texts they had discovered within the academy. As he read aloud from the worn pages, she felt her heart race at the revelations contained within. She learned that her curse was not a punishment, but a gift meant to restore balance between beasts and humans, a connection that would allow them to coexist peacefully in a world threatened by impending apocalypse. With this newfound knowledge, Kaelia felt a strange sense of peace wash over her. She knew that she had been chosen for this purpose, and she was ready to embrace it, but as they continued their journey, the whispers of beasts grew louder still, and she couldn't shake the feeling that their trial was drawing near. One night, as they sat by the fire in a campsite deep within the ancient forest, Kaelia felt Raven's presence. She knew that it was time to face her enemy and claim her place as the Eternal Beast-Whisperer. With Lysander by her side, she stepped forward into the darkness, ready to confront her destiny. As they approached Raven's lair, Kaelia could feel the air growing colder around them. She knew that this would be a fight for her life, and she steeled herself for battle. Raven stood before them, her horn glowing with an ethereal light, challenging Kaelia to prove her worth as the Eternal Beast-Whisperer. The two women faced off, their eyes locked in a battle of wills. Raven's power was immense, but Kaelia felt a surge of courage within her. She knew that she had been chosen for this purpose, and she would not back down easily. The battle raged on, each woman fighting with all their might. Kaelia summoned the beasts to aid her in the fight, using the power within her to call upon their strength and ferocity. Raven retaliated with a fierce determination, striking at Kaelia with a skill born of centuries of experience. As the battle wore on, Kaelia felt herself growing weaker. She knew that she could not sustain this fight forever, but she refused to give up. With one final burst of strength, she struck Raven down, her blade glowing with an ethereal light as it pierced the beast leader's heart. Kaelia stood tall and proud, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she surveyed the scene before her. Raven lay defeated at her feet, her horn shattered and her power broken. Kaelia knew that she had fulfilled her destiny as the Eternal Beast-Whisperer, uniting beasts and humans under one banner to restore balance to the world. As the sun rose over the ancient city ruins, Kaelia looked out upon a new dawn. She knew that their journey was far from over, but she felt a sense of hope wash over her. Together, with the beasts and humanity united as one, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead and forge a new future for themselves in this world. And Kaelia, the Eternal Beast-Whisperer, would lead them into that future, guided by the whispers of countless beasts and the knowledge that she had been chosen to bring balance to the world. As Kaelia stood on the edge of the clearing, looking out over the ancient city ruins, she could feel a sense of peace wash over her. She knew that she had fulfilled her destiny as the Eternal Beast-Whisperer, uniting beasts and humans under one banner to restore balance to the world. She turned to Lysander, who stood beside her with a solemn expression on his face. "We've done it," she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've united beasts and humanity." Lysander nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth, and together, we will forge a new future for ourselves in this world. As they stood there, watching the sun rise over the ancient city ruins, Kelia knew that their journey was far from over. But she also felt a strange sense of hope wash over her. Together with the beasts and humanity united as one, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, and forge a new future for themselves in this world. And Kelia, the eternal beast whisperer, would lead them into that future, guided by the whispers of countless beasts and the knowledge that she had been chosen to bring balance to the world. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. The group found themselves huddled around a roaring fire, the dimly lit corridors of the decaying academy stretching out behind them like a labyrinth. Kelia stared into the flames, her mind filled with thoughts of the past and the uncertain future. Lysander sat beside her, his gaze fixed on the ancient tome bound in raven's severed horn that lay before them. "We've come so far," he said, breaking the silence, "yet it feels like we're no closer to understanding our purpose." Kelia sighed, turning her gaze towards him. "What are we supposed to do now? We've defeated Raven and united the beasts, but what about humanity?" Lysander looked at her, his eyes reflecting the flickering firelight. "We must continue our journey, Kelia." The prophecy spoke of an eternal balance between beasts and humans, but the path to achieving that balance is still unclear. As they spoke, a sense of unease crept over Kelia. She felt it in the air, like an impending storm on the horizon. She looked towards the ancient stone walls, her heart pounding in her chest. "I feel that's something," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lysander's eyes narrowed. "Something?" he asked, his gaze following hers. Before they could react, a thunderous roar echoed through the halls, shaking the very foundations of the academy. The fire leapt up, casting dancing shadows on the walls as the group exchanged terrified glances. "A beast," Kelia whispered, her heart racing. "It's coming." They quickly gathered their belongings and hurried towards the narrow corridors, the massive beast hot on their heels. The labyrinthine halls seemed to twist and turn in impossible ways as they ran, each corridor leading them deeper into the decaying academy. Kelia could hear the beast's roars growing louder with every step, its breath scorching the air behind them. As they raced through the corridors, Kelia felt a sudden surge of fear and anger coursing through her veins. The familiar feelings returned, reminding her of all the times she had been tormented by her curse. She gripped the knife at her waist tighter, her eyes flashing with determination as she focused on the task ahead. The group eventually found themselves in a vast chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings, the massive beast looming before them. Kelia felt a wave of panic wash over her as she looked into its cold, lifeless eyes. She knew that this was no ordinary beast. It was a creature of immense power, summoned by Raven in her final, desperate bid to maintain control. Lysander stepped forward, standing protectively beside Kelia. "We've come too far to let this monster defeat us now," he said, his voice steady despite the fear that shone in his eyes. Kelia nodded, taking a deep breath. She closed her eyes and focused, feeling the connection between her and the beasts coursing through her veins. She reached out with her mind, her thoughts probing the beast's consciousness. In that moment she saw everything, its past, its pain, and its desire for power. But more than anything, she felt its loneliness, a feeling all too familiar to her own. In that instant, something inside Kelia shifted. She understood the beast not as an enemy, but as another lost soul seeking purpose in a world gone mad. With newfound determination, Kelia stepped forward, the knife gleaming in the dim light. "We won't let you destroy our home," she said, her voice ringing out through the chamber. The beast snarled, its eyes flashing with fury as it lunged towards them. But Kelia stood firm, her blade raised high. She felt the connection between herself and the beast grow stronger, her thoughts entwining with its own. For a moment, time seemed to slow as they battled one another, each side seeking control over the other. Kelia could feel the weight of the beast's power pressing down on her, but she refused to yield. She held fast, her resolve unwavering as she fought for their shared future. Finally, with a cry of triumph, Kelia managed to break free, her blade slicing through the beast's hide. It roared in rage, its body convulsing as it stumbled back, defeated. The group watched as it crumpled to the ground, its power dissipating into the air. As they stood there, panting and exhausted, Kelia couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They had faced their greatest challenge yet and emerged victorious. But she knew that this was far from over. There would be more battles to fight, more monsters to face. But for now, they stood together, united against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. And as Kelia looked out upon the defeated beast, she couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. For perhaps, just maybe, they were one step closer to finding the balance the prophecy spoke of. The group left the chamber, their hearts heavy with the weight of their victory. They knew that there would be more challenges ahead, but for now, they could rest. As they trudged through the labyrinthine corridors, Kelia couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude towards Lysander and her companions. For the first time since she had discovered her curse, she felt like she truly belonged, and as they journeyed deeper into the decaying academy, she knew that together, they would face whatever obstacles lay ahead, united by their shared purpose. As the sun rose over the ancient stone walls of the decaying city, Kelia and her companions stood atop the ruins, looking out upon a new dawn. They had faced their greatest challenge yet and emerged victorious. But they knew that their journey was far from over. There would be more battles to fight, more monsters to face. But for now, they could rest. As they gazed out upon the world before them, they couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. For perhaps, just maybe, they were one step closer to finding the balance the prophecy spoke of. And as Kelia looked towards the horizon, she knew that whatever trials lay ahead, she would face them with her friends by her side. The journey had been long and arduous, but they had persevered. They had faced their fears and embraced their destinies. And now, as they stood there amidst the ruins of a once bustling city, Kelia couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in all that they had accomplished. But there was still much work to be done. The world was far from balanced, and it would take time and effort to heal the wounds that had been inflicted upon it. But Kelia knew that with her companions by her side, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As she looked out upon the horizon, she saw a glimmer of light in the distance, a beacon of hope amidst the darkness, and as she turned to her friends, her heart swelled with gratitude and love. For she knew that together, they would forge a new path, one where beasts and humans could coexist peacefully, their differences setting them apart but their shared purpose binding them together. In the heart of the once bustling city, Kelia felt a chill run down her spine as she gazed at the vast chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings. Lysander, her mentor, noticed the change in her demeanor. "Kelia," he said, "there's something here. A feeling. I think it's a clue." They ventured deeper into the decaying academy, following their gut instincts. As they navigated labyrinthine corridors lined with dust and decay, Kelia felt a familiar presence. Her heart raced as she approached a small clearing amidst the ruins. A massive beast stood before them, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. "What is that?" Lysander asked, his voice trembling. Kelia looked at him, her gaze focused on the towering creature. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I think it might be the one we were warned about in the prophecy." The beast roared, sending shockwaves through the ground. Kelia closed her eyes and spoke to it, feeling its pain and anger. It was unlike anything she had ever experienced before, a being so powerful and tormented that it shook her to her core. Lysander watched in amazement as Kelia communicated with the beast. "You can talk to it?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "I can feel its emotions, but I don't understand what it wants." The creature growled and charged at them, sending stones flying as it barreled through the ruins. Kelia and Lysander retreated, dodging debris and avoiding the beast's relentless attacks. As they ran, Kalia felt a deep connection to the beast, one that seemed to be driving its actions. In the clearing outside the academy's stone walls, they paused to catch their breath. "What do we do?" Lysander asked, panting heavily. "I don't know," Kalia replied, her voice filled with fear and determination. "But I think I can help it, if I can figure out what it wants." They returned to the academy, seeking answers in its ancient tomes and carvings. As they searched, Kalia felt a growing sense of unease. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was following them, watching their every move. In a narrow corridor lined with intricate stone carvings, Kalia felt a presence behind her. She turned to face it, only to find Raven standing there, her severed horn bound around an imposing tome. "You thought you could escape me," she sneered, her voice filled with malice. Lysander stepped between them, his eyes narrowing. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice cold and steady. Raven smiled, revealing sharp teeth. "I want your power," she whispered. "And I will have it." Kalia felt a surge of anger coursing through her veins as Raven approached her. She raised the knife at her waist, ready to defend herself if needed. But just as Raven lunged, the massive beast burst into the chamber, roaring in fury. The battle was fierce and brutal. Kalia summoned the beast's power, feeling its rage coursing through her veins. Lysander fought alongside her, dodging Raven's attacks and striking back with all his might. In the end, they emerged victorious, but exhausted and battered. As they lay by the fire, Kalia looked up at the stars. "What now?" she asked Lysander, her voice barely audible. He looked at her, his eyes filled with sadness. "I don't know," he replied, "but I think we have a new ally." Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. The air in the dimly lit corridor was thick with tension. Raven's followers had retreated, but Kalia knew they wouldn't rest for long. Lysander's eyes scanned the ancient carvings that lined their path, his mind already calculating strategies against any potential threats. "We should prepare for an ambush," he said, breaking the silence. "Raven won't give up on claiming your power." Kalia felt a surge of anger, clenching her knife at her waist. "I won't let her win. I have to protect our people, Lysander." Lysander nodded gravely. "We'll need allies, and I know someone who might help us against Raven's forces." He led them deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the decaying academy. As they ventured further into the depths, Kalia couldn't shake the feeling of unease. She could sense something darker lurking within these ancient walls, and it wasn't just Raven's followers. The air grew colder, the shadows more menacing as they traversed the narrow corridors lined with dust and decay. Suddenly, a massive beast emerged from one of the empty chambers, roaring in challenge. Its eyes locked onto Kalia, and she felt a strange connection to it, a feeling that was both terrifying and exhilarating. Lysander quickly stepped between them, his blade at the ready. "I know what you are," he said, addressing the beast. "You're the one from the prophecy." The massive beast bared its teeth, circling around them, sizing up their defenses. Kalia could feel its rage and fear, but there was something else, something that made her think this creature wasn't entirely evil. "You may be our only hope against Raven," she whispered, taking a step closer to the beast. "I can communicate with you." The massive beast snarled, lowering its guard slightly as Kalia reached out with her mind, delving deep into its thoughts. She felt its pain and anger, but also an underlying desire for understanding and acceptance. It was a creature like herself, a being caught between two worlds, struggling to find its place amidst the chaos. "I understand," she said softly, stepping back from the beast. "We will help you, but we need your aid as well." The sun dipped below the horizon as Kalia stood atop ancient stone walls that once protected the heart of a now decaying city. The wind whistled through the crumbling towers around her, carrying with it the scent of rot and decay. Below, Lysander's voice carried up to her as he spoke to their small group of survivors huddled by a roaring fire. "We can't stay here much longer," he warned, glancing up at Kalia. Raven will be coming for us soon. She clenched the knife at her waist, feeling its cold metal against her skin. Her heart raced as she looked out over the vast expanse of the ruined city. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting for them in the darkness beyond the firelight. "What do you think we should do?" she asked Lysander, turning away from the view. His eyes met hers, searching for an answer she didn't have. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I believe the ancient texts may hold the key to our survival." Intrigued, Kalia followed Lysander through the labyrinthine corridors of the decaying academy, her senses straining for any sign of danger. She felt a faint rumble beneath their feet, and the air grew colder as they ventured deeper into the ancient stone walls. In a vast chamber filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings, Lysander placed his hand on an imposing tome bound in Raven's severed horn. As he opened it, Kalia felt a chill run down her spine. The tome seemed alive, pulsing with magic that called out to her in a language she couldn't understand. "What is this?" Lysander asked, his eyes wide. "It feels powerful." Kalia shook her head, her heart pounding as she took a step back. The last thing they needed was Raven's power falling into the wrong hands. "We can't let anyone find this," she said firmly. As they made their way through the dimly lit corridors, Kalia couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She heard a low growl echoing through the stone walls, and she gripped her knife tighter as she quickened her pace. They needed to find somewhere safe before Raven's forces caught up with them. The air grew thick with tension as they reached a clearing amidst the ruins. Kalia felt a presence behind her, and she turned to see a massive beast standing there. Its eyes locked onto hers, and she could hear the rumble of its breath as it stepped closer. "Don't be afraid," Lysander whispered, stepping in front of her protectively. "We mean you no harm." The beast lowered its head, seemingly understanding Lysander's words. Kalia felt a strange connection to the creature, as if they were two sides of the same coin. She realized with a shock that this was the massive beast from the prophecy, sent to help them in their time of need. "We can work together," she said slowly, reaching out to touch the creature's rough hide. "For the sake of our world." The beast nodded, and Kalia felt a surge of relief wash over her. They had found an ally in this dangerous world, but she knew that their journey was far from over. The darkness still loomed, and Raven would stop at nothing to claim her power. But for now, they had each other, and that was enough. As night fell, the fire flickered in the clearing, casting dancing shadows on Kalia's face as she looked out across the decaying city. The beast stood guard nearby, its massive form a comforting presence amidst the chaos. Lysander sat by her side, his eyes filled with determination. "We will find a way," he said softly, taking her hand. "Together." Kalia closed her eyes, feeling a small glimmer of hope in her heart for the first time in what felt like an eternity. They had a long journey ahead of them, but together they would face whatever challenges came their way. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. Kalia knelt by the fire, the imposing tome bound with Raven's severed horn clutched tightly in her hands. Lysander sat across from her, his eyes reflecting a mix of concern and curiosity. The massive beast stood watch outside their makeshift campsite, its presence providing an uneasy peace. "I don't understand," Kalia whispered, tracing the ornate carvings on the tome with trembling fingers. "Why did they bind this book in Raven's horn? And what is written within?" Lysander approached her cautiously, his eyes scanning their surroundings. "We will find out soon enough, but we must be careful." It could contain knowledge that Raven wants for herself. A low growl echoed through the desolate wastelands, making both Kalia and Lysander tense. The massive beast stood up, alert, its eyes glowing with determination. "We have to go," Lysander said, grabbing his sword. "The others are waiting." Kalia nodded, the weight of the book pressing down on her shoulders. As they ventured deeper into the decaying academy, she felt a strange connection forming between them and the massive beast. Its presence seemed to offer solace amidst the constant fear and danger. They navigated narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings, their footsteps echoing eerily through the dimly lit chambers. The air was thick with dust and decay, yet they pressed onward, driven by a desire for answers and hope of salvation. As they ventured further into the ancient academy, Kalia felt a growing unease in her heart. The more she sensed the connection between herself, the massive beast, and the book bound with Raven's horn, the more questions arose. What secrets did it hold? And could those secrets change everything they knew about their world and their role within it? Their journey led them to an empty chamber filled with dust and decay, where they discovered a massive tome bound in the severed horn of Raven. Kalia's heart raced as she approached it, feeling a strange pull towards the book. Lysander stood guard, watching her intently. "Are you ready?" Kalia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lysander nodded. "We must be careful. Remember, knowledge is powerful, but it can also be dangerous." Kalia took a deep breath, opened the massive tome and began to read. The words swirled before her eyes, revealing ancient stories of balance and chaos, power and sacrifice. As she delved deeper into the book's pages, Kalia felt a growing connection to the world around her, the beasts and her own purpose. Suddenly, the chamber was filled with an otherworldly light. The massive beast roared in pain as it collapsed to the ground. Raven stood before them, her eyes glowing with malice. "You thought you could fy me," she sneered, holding up Kalia's knife in one hand and the severed horn of the massive beast in the other. "I knew you would come for this book. I have been waiting for you." Kalia felt a surge of anger and determination. She closed the book and rose to her feet, standing tall and proud despite the fear that gnawed at her heart. "You may have taken my beast friend," she said, her voice steady, "but you will never take this." Raven laughed. "We shall see." With a swift motion, Raven lunged towards Kalia, the knife in her hand glinting dangerously in the dim light of the chamber. Lysander rushed to defend her, but it was too late. As they clashed in the heart of the ancient academy, Kalia felt a sudden shift within herself. The connection between her, the book, and the massive beast surged, filling her with an immense power she never knew she possessed. In that moment, the balance began to tip. The beasts of the world sensed the change, their roars echoing through the decaying academy as they prepared to join the battle against Raven and her followers. Kalia stood tall, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the sun rose over the ancient stone walls of the academy, casting long shadows across the clearing, Kalia felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that the road ahead would be long and treacherous, but she was ready to lead humanity into a future where they could coexist peacefully with their monstrous allies. The battle against Raven and her forces raged on, the massive beast roaring in defiance as it fought for its life. Kalia stood by its side, her heart pounding with determination. The air was thick with magic and death, but she refused to back down. In the end, it was Kalia's newfound power that turned the tide of battle. With a roar, she summoned the massive beast, channeling all her strength into its body. It grew larger, stronger, and more fearsome than ever before. Raven's forces faltered, their confidence wavering as they faced the mighty beast. Raven herself stood defiantly, her eyes blazing with rage. "You think this will end here?" she shouted, her voice echoing through the clearing. "I have been preparing for this day, and I will not go down without a fight." Kalia charged forward, the massive beast at her side. Together, they fought against Raven and her followers, their combined strength pushing back the darkness that threatened to consume them all. As the battle raged on, Kalia felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. She knew that this was her destiny, her purpose within the prophecy. In the end, it was not force or violence that won the day, but understanding and unity. Raven, defeated and broken, knelt before Kalia and the massive beast. "I see now," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You are the Eternal Beast Whisperer. Kalia stared at her, feeling a strange mix of sorrow and triumph. "Yes," she said softly, "but this is not my victory alone. It belongs to all who stand against the darkness." As the sun set over the ancient stone walls of the academy, Kalia stood tall amidst the ruins of the once bustling city, the massive beast at her side, its body now smaller and less fearsome than before, but still strong and proud. Lysander stood beside her, his eyes reflecting a mix of pride and sadness. "We have won," he said, his voice heavy with emotion, "but the battle is far from over." Kalia nodded, feeling a strange sense of peace in her heart. She knew that their journey was far from complete, but she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would lead humanity towards a brighter future, where they could coexist peacefully with the beasts of the world. Kalia stood before the massive beast, her heart pounding with fear and determination. Lysander, her mentor, watched from a safe distance, eyes filled with pride and concern. The ancient academy loomed in the background, its stone walls etched with intricate carvings that seemed to whisper secrets long forgotten. The massive beast roared, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Its scales shimmered like living emeralds, and its eyes glowed with an eerie light. Kalia could feel its power coursing through her veins, a potent reminder of the bond that connected them. She took a deep breath, drawing on Lysander's teachings to steady herself. "I am not afraid," she whispered, summoning all of her strength. "I will not let this beast control me." Lysander stepped forward, his voice calm and reassuring. "Remember your training, Kalia. You have the power within you to harness this creature's might and use it for good." Kalia closed her eyes, focusing on the bond between them. She felt a surge of energy coursing through her, the connection growing stronger with each passing moment. With a cry of defiance, she reached out to the beast, her voice echoing through the ancient stone walls. "Hear me, Great One," she called. "I am Kalia, the Eternal Beast Whisperer, and I command you." The massive beast let out a roar that shook the very foundations of the academy, its eyes narrowing as it recognized her voice. It lowered its head submissively, acknowledging her authority. "I will not allow you to be used as a weapon against humanity," Kalia continued, her voice steady and resolute. "Together, we will restore balance and harmony between our kind." As the massive beast bowed before her, Raven emerged from the shadows, his severed horn held triumphantly in one hand. His eyes blazed with anger as he surveyed the scene before him. So he sneered, "You think you can stand against me?" Kalia met his gaze, her resolve unwavering. "I am the Eternal Beast Whisperer, and I will not be defeated by a mere beast leader." Raven laughed, his voice echoing through the stone corridors. "You are but a puppet, bound to my control. You will never truly understand your own power." Kalia's grip on her knife tightened, determination burning within her. She knew that she must prove herself worthy of her destiny, or risk losing everything she held dear. With a cry of defiance, she charged at Raven, the massive beast following close behind. The battle was fierce and brutal, each blow striking sparks from the ancient stone walls. Raven's forces surrounded them, their snarls and roars filling the air as they sought to claim Kalia for themselves. But Kalia held fast, her newfound power growing stronger with every passing moment. At last, with a cry of triumph, she struck Raven down, his body crumbling to dust beneath her blade. The massive beast let out a mournful roar, its eyes filled with sorrow as it watched its leader fall. Kalia felt a pang of guilt, but knew that this was the price of survival in such a harsh world. As the dust settled, Lysander stepped forward, a proud smile on his face. "You have proven yourself worthy, Kalia," he said, his voice filled with admiration and pride. "The Eternal Beast Whisperer truly lives." Kalia nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "But our work is not yet done," she whispered. "We must rebuild and restore balance to this world." Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. In a dimly lit corridor lined with intricate stone carvings, Callia's small group of survivors navigates through the decaying ruins of an ancient academy. The massive beast from the prophecy walks alongside them, its colossal form barely fitting within the narrow passages. Lysander leads them deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, guiding them toward a clearing where they hope to find answers and allies. "We must be cautious," Lysander whispers, his gaze fixed on the ancient carvings adorning the stone walls. There are traps and ambushes lurking around every corner. As they walk, Callia can't help but feel uneasy. The weight of her newfound power is heavy upon her shoulders, and the responsibility she now bears fills her with dread. She clutches the knife at her waist, its cold steel offering a small comfort in these chaotic times. Suddenly a low growl echoes through the corridor, making Callia's heart race. The massive beast tenses, its ears perked as it senses danger. Lysander raises a hand, signaling for them to remain silent. He moves quietly toward the source of the sound, his eyes scanning the shadows for any signs of movement. As they advance, Callia's connection with the massive beast grows stronger. She can feel its fear, its instinctual need to protect her and their group. Her own fear begins to subside as she realizes that this creature is not an enemy but an ally in their quest for balance. Lysander emerges from the shadows, a small clearing ahead of them. In the center stands Raven, the powerful beast leader who had once sought to claim Callia's power for himself. His gaze falls upon her, and his eyes narrow as he takes in her new companion. "You've found me at last," he sneers, his voice dripping with venom. "I was beginning to wonder if you would ever come." Callia steps forward, her resolve hardening as she meets Raven's gaze. "We seek answers, not confrontation." Raven laughs, a cold, mocking sound that sends chills down Callia's spine. "Answers? You think I would give you answers willingly? Then we shall take them from you," Lysander growls, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. Raven raises a hand, and a massive beast emerges from the shadows behind him. Its eyes are filled with malice, its muscles tensed as it prepares to attack. Callia's heart races as she feels the creature's anger and hatred through their connection. She takes a deep breath, focusing her newfound power within her. "Enough," she commands, her voice steady despite the fear that still lingers within her. The massive beast hesitates, its muscles relaxing as it turns to face Raven. "You cannot defeat us. We seek balance, not war." Raven's eyes narrow, and for a moment Callia thinks he might attack. But then he nods, his expression cold and calculating. "Very well," he says. "I will test your resolve." He turns to the massive beast standing beside him, its eyes still locked on Callia. "Kill her," he commands, and the creature lunges. Callia's heart races as she springs into action. She moves with a speed and agility she never knew she possessed, dodging the massive beast's attacks with ease. Her connection to the creatures gives her an advantage, allowing her to anticipate their movements and react accordingly. The fight rages on, Callia and the massive beast clashing in a dance of power and determination. Lysander and Raven watch from the sidelines, their eyes locked as they observe the battle between the two forces. Neither shows any sign of backing down, each determined to emerge victorious. Finally, with a mighty roar, Callia sends the massive beast crashing to the ground. It lies there, panting and wounded but not defeated. Raven watches as she approaches it, her blade held high. "I am the Eternal Beast-Whisperer," she declares, her voice echoing through the clearing. "And I will not rest until balance is restored." Raven's eyes narrow, and for a moment, Callia fears that he might attack again. But then, he nods, his expression stoic. "I see," he says. "You have proven yourself worthy. Perhaps there is hope for humanity after all." As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting a crimson glow across the ancient stone walls of the academy, Callia sat huddled by the roaring fire, her eyes flickering with determination. Lysander stood nearby, contemplating the massive tome bound in Raven's severed horn that lay on a stone slab before them. "The prophecy is clear," he said, breaking the silence. This tome holds the key to defeating Raven and ending her reign of terror. Kalia's gaze shifted between the fire and the tome, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that claiming the power within could either save humanity or seal their doom forever. But at what cost? She whispered, clenching her knife tightly at her waist. I will not become like Raven. Lysander stepped closer to her, his eyes filled with understanding. You must learn to harness your power without letting it consume you, he said gently. The fate of our people rests on your shoulders, Kalia. You have come too far to turn back now. Kalia stared into the flames, her mind racing as she weighed the possibilities before her. She knew that embracing her destiny would be a dangerous gamble, but one she was willing to take for the sake of humanity's future. With renewed resolve, she reached out and touched the imposing tome, feeling its power coursing through her veins like molten fire. As she closed her eyes, the world around them seemed to shift and shimmer, time itself bending in on itself. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself standing at the heart of the once bustling city, surrounded by the ruins of a civilization long lost to the ravages of war. The air was thick with the scent of decay and despair, yet Kalia felt a strange sense of peace wash over her as she gazed upon the desolation around her. A sudden growl echoed through the ruins, pulling Kalia from her thoughts. She spun around, knife at the ready, only to find herself face to face with the massive beast that had been terrorizing humanity for years. The creature towered over her, its eyes glowing an eerie red as it snarled menacingly. Kalia's heart raced as she steeled herself for battle, but before she could act, Lysander stepped between them, his voice steady and strong. This is not the end, he said to the beast. You have served your purpose in this world, but now it is time for you to find peace. The massive beast hesitated for a moment, as if considering Lysander's words. Then, with a final snarl, it turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving Kalia and Lysander alone amidst the ruins. I did not think you had it in you, Kalia said, her voice barely above a whisper as she watched the beast fade away. Lysander smiled sadly. We are both capable of more than we know, he replied. Now, let us continue our journey and seek out those who will join us in our fight against Raven. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. The fire crackled, casting flickering shadows on Kalia's face, as she sat alone by its warmth. The weight of the tome bound in Raven's severed horn rested heavy on her lap. Lysander stood nearby, watching over her with concern etched across his features. Are you ready? He asked softly. Kalia looked up from the ancient artifact, her eyes reflecting the firelight. As ready as I'll ever be. Lysander nodded, stepping closer to offer a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You are not alone in this, Kalia. We will face Raven together. A shiver ran down Kalia's spine. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and reached out with her mind. A low growl echoed through the ruins as the massive beast appeared before them, its eyes fixed on the tome in her hands. I cannot control it, Kalia whispered, trembling. It's too powerful. You must try, Lysander said firmly. For humanity's sake, we must defeat Raven and end this war. Kalia nodded, steeling herself as she clutched the tome tighter. She focused on the beast, her mind reaching out to connect with it. A surge of raw power coursed through her veins as the creature roared in response. The ground shook beneath them as the massive beast charged, its eyes locked onto Kalia and the tome she held. Lysander stepped between them, drawing his blade. Stay back, he shouted, parrying the beast's clawed swipe with a deft twist of his wrist. The creature bellowed in frustration, turning its attention to Lysander as Kalia took her chance. She closed her eyes and let the power surge through her, her connection to the beast growing stronger by the moment. The world around them seemed to slow as she felt herself merge with the massive creature, her senses expanding beyond her own body. In that instant she saw everything, the once bustling city now reduced to ruins, the decaying academy filled with ancient tomes and intricate carvings, The small group of survivors struggling to survive in a world overrun by monstrous beasts, and Raven, a powerful beast leader seeking dominance over humanity. With newfound determination, Kelia pushed the power coursing through her outward, commanding the beast to attack. It roared and charged at Raven's forces, tearing through their ranks like a whirlwind of destruction. Lysander fought valiantly by her side, fending off any beasts that dared approach. Together, they pushed back Raven's army, the tide of battle slowly turning in their favor. But as the last vestiges of humanity gathered around them, Kelia knew this was only the beginning. The true test lay ahead, confronting Raven herself and uncovering the truth behind her curse. As the sun set on the battlefield, Kelia stood tall amidst the ruins. She looked out over the small group of survivors huddled together for safety, their faces etched with gratitude and hope. And though she was still tormented by her fear and anger towards her affliction, she knew that she would not let it define her any longer. In the heart of what once was a bustling city, Kelia and Lysander stood before ancient stone walls, their silhouettes casting long shadows in the dim light of a roaring fire. The scent of burnt wood filled the air as the two huddled close, seeking warmth and comfort amidst the cold ruins. Kelia's knife glinted at her waist, the blade sharp and ready for whatever lay ahead. Lysander's gaze was steady, his eyes reflecting a deep concern for his young protégé. "I can feel it," Kelia whispered, her voice barely audible above the crackling flames. "The power within me, it grows stronger every day." Lysander's expression hardened, a determined glint in his eyes. "We must be prepared for whatever Raven throws our way," he said, his voice low and purposeful. "And I believe you are ready." "I don't know if I am," Kelia confessed, her eyes flickering with fear. "I can feel the beast inside me, wanting to take control." Lysander reached out, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You have come far, Kelia," he said solemnly, "but we must not forget that you are more than just the beast whisperer. You have a purpose beyond this curse." A sudden silence fell over them as they listened to the wind howling through the decaying city ruins. Kelia closed her eyes, her mind drifting back to their first encounter with Raven and the test of resolve that followed. The memory still haunted her, but she found strength in it now, a reminder of all she had overcome thus far. "I will not let this curse define me," Kelia declared, her voice steady and determined. "I will lead us to victory." Lysander smiled, his eyes shining with pride. "You always were destined for greatness, Kelia. Together, we will change the course of history." The fire flickered, casting dancing shadows across their faces as they shared a moment of quiet resolve. They knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but they were ready to face it together. For better or for worse, their destinies were intertwined, and they would not falter in their pursuit of salvation. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers, in the heart of a once bustling city, amidst ruins that spoke of a time long past, Kelia stood atop ancient stone walls, gazing upon the desolation surrounding her. The echoes of laughter and life had been silenced, replaced by the whispers of beasts lurking in the shadows. Lysander, her mentor and closest ally, joined her on the wall, his eyes scanning their surroundings with an intensity that mirrored Kelia's own. "We have come far, my student," he said, his voice low but firm. "But our journey is far from over." Kelia's grip tightened on her knife at her waist as she looked to the dimly lit corridors that stretched out before them. The weight of their mission weighed heavily upon her shoulders. With every step they took deeper into the decaying academy, she could feel the pressure building, the stakes growing higher with each passing moment. "I know," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "We must face Raven and his forces, and I fear that our victory may cost us dearly." Lysander nodded, understanding the weight of Kelia's words. "But we have come too far to turn back now," he said, determination etched into every line of his weathered face. "Together, we will face whatever challenges lie ahead and emerge victorious." As they descended into the labyrinthine corridors, Kelia couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The air seemed thick with tension, and she could feel the eyes of unseen creatures watching them as they passed. Her senses were heightened, and she knew that danger lurked just beyond their reach. The dimly lit corridor stretched out before them, its walls adorned with intricate stone carvings depicting scenes of a time long past. Kelia could feel the power emanating from the ancient artifacts, a testament to the knowledge and magic that had once filled this place. As they ventured deeper into the academy, she could sense the echoes of those who had come before her, their stories etched into every stone. "This place is steeped in history," Lysander said, his voice barely above a whisper as he traced his fingers over an ancient carving. "It's no wonder that the prophecy foretold the rise of the eternal beast-whisperer here." Kelia nodded, her eyes scanning the intricate carvings that lined their path. She knew that they were close to finding the answers they sought, but she couldn't shake the feeling that danger lurked just beyond their reach. As they turned a corner, their path suddenly blocked by a massive beast that filled the corridor with its roar. Kelia's heart raced as she stood frozen in fear, her senses overwhelmed by the raw power emanating from the creature before them. Lysander, ever the strategist, took a step forward, his eyes never leaving the beast. "We must face this creature if we are to continue our quest," he said, his voice steady despite the danger that surrounded them. Kelia knew that they had no choice but to confront the beast, and she took a deep breath, summoning the courage she needed to face this challenge. As they advanced on the creature, she could feel its rage building, its power growing with each passing moment. It was a battle that would test their resolve, their strength, and their very souls. The fight was brutal, each blow landing with the force of a thunderclap as they clashed in the narrow corridor. Kelia could feel her body bruised and battered, but she refused to give in. She knew that this battle was not just for their survival, but for the fate of humanity itself. With Lysander at her side, she fought with every ounce of strength she possessed, determined to emerge victorious. As the dust settled, Kelia stood over the defeated beast, panting and battered, but alive. Lysander, his face a mask of relief, approached her, his eyes filled with pride. "You have shown great courage today, my student," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I know that you will continue to rise to every challenge that comes your way." Kelia nodded, her heart racing as she gazed upon the fallen beast. She knew that they had taken a step closer to their goal, but she also understood that they still had much to face before they could truly claim victory. As they continued their journey through the decaying academy, Kelia couldn't shake the feeling that Raven was waiting for them, his power growing with every passing moment, but she refused to let fear control her. She knew that she was destined for greatness, and she would not allow herself to be defeated by those who sought to stand in her way. With Lysander at her side, she pressed on, determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead and lead humanity towards a future where they could coexist peacefully with the monstrous beasts that roamed their world. As darkness fell upon the once bustling city, Kelia and Lysander made camp by the fire, their bodies weary but their spirits unbroken. They spoke of their journey so far, their struggles, and their hopes for the future. As the flames danced before them, Kelia couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the brink of something incredible, a destiny that would change not only her life but the lives of all humanity. And though the road ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, Kelia knew that she could face whatever lay before her, for she had been chosen as the eternal beast-whisperer, and she would not let her people down. As the fire flickered and died, leaving them in darkness, Kelia closed her eyes, her dreams filled with visions of a future where humans and beasts lived together in harmony, united by her power and her courage. And as dawn broke upon the decaying city, Kelia awoke, her heart filled with determination and purpose. She knew that she had much to do if she was to fulfill her destiny and lead humanity towards salvation. With Lysander at her side, she would face whatever challenges came her way, forging a new path for the survivors of their world, united by the power of the eternal beast-whisperer. And as they ventured deeper into the decaying academy, Keelia could feel the weight of their mission growing heavier with each passing moment. She knew that Raven and his forces were waiting for them, their power growing with every day that passed. But she also understood that she had been chosen for a reason, and she would not let her people down. In the heart of a decaying city, Keelia stood tall by the roaring fire, her eyes scanning the horizon as Lysander sat across from her, his gaze focused on the flickering flames. The once bustling city ruins stretched out behind them, a reminder of a world lost to time and the relentless march of monstrous beasts. Lysander broke the silence, his voice steady despite the tension that hung heavy in the air. "We've come far, Keelia. You've shown incredible courage and strength." He paused, looking at her intently. "But I fear our journey is far from over. Raven's presence grows stronger, and we must prepare ourselves for what lies ahead." Keelia gritted her teeth, her eyes narrowing as she thought of the beast leader who had tormented them since they first entered the academy. "I know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I won't let him win. Not this time." As the wind picked up, Keelia felt Raven's presence grow stronger, her heart racing as she clutched the knife at her waist. She could sense his anger and frustration, knowing that he was watching them from somewhere close by. Lysander noticed her discomfort, his expression softening. "We won't let him catch us off guard again." He reached out a hand to touch hers, his grip firm and reassuring. "I'll be with you every step of the way." Keelia nodded, forcing a small smile. She knew that Lysander meant well, but she couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had taken hold of her heart. The weight of their mission was heavy on her shoulders, and she feared that they were no match for Raven and his formidable forces. As dawn broke, Keelia and Lysander set out once more into the decaying city ruins, their spirits determined but heavy with apprehension. They moved cautiously through the narrow corridors lined with intricate stone carvings, their senses heightened as they searched for any sign of Raven or his minions. Their journey led them to an empty chamber filled with dust and decay, its walls adorned with ancient carvings that seemed to whisper secrets long forgotten. Keelia felt a strange energy emanating from the stones, her heart quickening as she took in the intricate designs. Suddenly the air grew thick and oppressive, the temperature dropping sharply around them. Keelia could feel Raven's presence closing in, his malevolent intent clear even through the stone walls. She drew the knife from her waist, her muscles tensing as she prepared for battle. As the chamber filled with darkness, a massive beast emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Keelia could feel the weight of its power, her heart racing as she struggled to maintain control over her fear. Lysander stood beside her, his face set in determination as he readied himself for battle. The beast charged, its roars echoing through the decaying city ruins. Keelia closed her eyes, focusing all of her energy on communicating with the creature, hoping that she could find a way to make it see reason. She felt a sudden surge of hope as the beast hesitated, its rage momentarily dissipating. In that brief moment of stillness, Lysander struck, driving his blade deep into the monster's flesh. The beast let out a deafening roar as it stumbled back, its eyes wide with shock and pain. Keelia felt a wave of relief wash over her, but she knew that their victory was far from complete. As they stood amidst the ruins of the decaying city, Keelia couldn't help but feel a sense of bittersweet victory. They had defeated another beast, but Raven remained elusive, his presence growing stronger with each passing day. She knew that their journey was far from over, and she feared that the road ahead would be filled with even greater challenges. But as she looked to Lysander, his arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders, she felt a renewed sense of determination. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, knowing that they were not alone in their struggle for survival. And maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to bring peace to a world torn apart by monstrous beasts and the relentless march of time. As darkness fell once more over the decaying city ruins, Kelia and Lysander rested by a small fire, their thoughts filled with hope and fear, dreams and nightmares. But as they huddled together, they knew that they would face whatever lay ahead, united in their quest for survival and the salvation of humanity. Their journey was far from over, but they pressed on, their spirits unbroken and their resolve unwavering. For they were the last remnants of humanity, fighting against the odds to reclaim a world that had been lost to time and monstrous beasts. And together, they would find a way to overcome the darkness that threatened to consume them all. As Kalia looked up at the vast expanse of stars above, she felt a sudden sense of peace wash over her. She knew that whatever lay ahead, she would face it with courage and determination, guided by the wisdom of Lysander and the power of her connection to the beasts. And maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to bring balance to a world torn apart by chaos and fear. Ascension-of-the-Eternal-Beast-Whispers. The once bustling city lay in ruin, its grandeur now nothing more than crumbling stone walls and decaying carvings. Amidst the desolation stood Kalia, Lysander, and their small group of survivors huddled around a roaring fire. They had come far since leaving the academy and faced many trials. But the greatest challenge still loomed ahead. Raven and her forces. We have come a long way, Lysander said, his gaze fixed on the ruins before them. But our journey is far from over. Kelia clenched her knife at her waist, her fingers tracing the familiar hilt. I will face Raven and bring this to an end. We cannot do this alone, Lysander replied, his eyes meeting hers. Together, we stand a chance. A sudden stillness settled over the group as they listened to the distant sounds of ravaging beasts. Kelia took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. We leave at dawn, she said, determination etched across her face. Together, we will bring peace. That night, under the stars, Kelia sat alone by the fire. Her thoughts drifted to Raven and the test of resolve that lay ahead. She could not shake the fear that gnawed at her soul. Was she truly strong enough to face the beast leader? As she pondered this question, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Lysander, his eyes filled with concern as he approached her. You worry too much, he said softly. But I believe in you. The prophecy chose you for a reason. His words resonated within her, and she nodded, allowing herself to be comforted by his belief in her abilities. In the pre-dawn hours, they set off on their journey, their hearts filled with hope and determination. As they ventured deeper into the ruins, the sounds of beasts grew louder. They moved cautiously, staying close to one another as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors. The dimly lit passageways seemed endless, but Kalia pressed on, her mind focused solely on Raven and the path to salvation. Finally, they emerged into a small clearing amidst the ruins, their breaths coming out in misty clouds in the cold air. Before them stood a massive stone wall, its surface adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to glow in the pale light of dawn. Kelia's eyes widened as she recognized the significance of the artifacts. Before her, the ancient tomes bound in Raven's severed horn. This is it, Lysander murmured, awe evident in his voice. The heart of the once bustling city. They approached the wall, their hearts pounding with anticipation and fear. As they touched the carvings, a sudden rumble echoed through the ruins, followed by the sound of distant footsteps. Kelia's grip tightened on her knife as she prepared for battle. Raven stepped from the shadows, her eyes fixed on Kalia as she approached. The beast leader was more imposing than ever, her severed horn now bound to an ancient tome that seemed to pulse with power. Kelia's heart raced as she met Raven's gaze, feeling the weight of their impending confrontation. You are not ready, Raven sneered, her voice cold and mocking. I will claim your power for myself. Never, Kelia shouted, her fury overpowering her fear. I will not let you destroy what's left of humanity." With a roar, Raven charged at her, and the battle began. Kalia fought with all her strength, dodging and weaving around her enemy as she sought an opening. But Raven was relentless. Her power seemed to grow with each passing moment, and Kalia could feel herself starting to falter. Just when all hope seemed lost, a sudden cry pierced the air. A massive beast emerged from the shadows, its eyes onto Raven. The beast leader's gaze shifted, her focus torn between Kalia and the monstrous creature. With a final surge of strength, Kalia seized the opportunity, striking at Raven with all her might. The blow landed true, sending Raven staggering back. As she fell, the massive beast lunged forward, its jaws snapping shut on Raven's neck. A cry of rage echoed through the ruins as the beast leader was consumed by the creature she sought to control. Kalia stood over the remains of Raven and the slain beast, her breath coming out in shuddering gasps. Lysander approached her, his eyes filled with awe and admiration. "You did it," he murmured, taking Kalia's hand. "You are the Eternal Beast-Whisperer." As they watched the sun rise over the ruined city, Kalia felt a strange sense of peace wash over her. She had faced her greatest fear and come out victorious. She was ready to lead humanity into a new era where beasts and humans could coexist peacefully. Together with Lysander and their small group of survivors, they began the journey towards rebuilding a world lost to monstrous beasts. And as they walked, Kalia knew that she would never forget the lessons she learned along the way. That fear and anger could consume her, but determination and courage would guide her to salvation. And so it was written in the ancient prophecy, the rise of the Eternal Beast-Whisperer, who would lead humanity to a brighter future. Kalia stood at the forefront of this new beginning, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead as she forged a path towards peace and redemption. As dawn broke upon the decaying city, Kalia stood atop ancient stone walls overlooking the once bustling metropolis now reduced to ruins. The roaring fire from their campsite flickered beneath her, casting long shadows across the wasteland. Her heart raced as memories of their victory against Raven and the massive beast resurfaced. "I never imagined I'd be standing here," she murmured, gazing at the city that once thrived with life and purpose. "It feels surreal." Lysander approached her side, a solemn look on his face. "We've come so far since our first meeting in this very city. Look at what we've achieved together." Kalia turned to him, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "You were right, Lysander. I needed time to understand my purpose. Now, I feel ready to lead humanity towards a new future." Lysander nodded, pride swelling in his chest. "I believe in you, Kalia. Our journey has just begun." In the distance, a faint rumbling echoed through the air. Kalia's heart seized as she realized what it was, the massive beast they had battled before. The once terrifying creature now lay dormant, its power contained within the ancient tome bound in Raven's severed horn. "We must return the beast to its resting place," Kalia said, her resolve firming. "It's time we put this chapter of our past behind us and move on." Together, they descended into the labyrinthine corridors of the decaying academy, seeking out the ancient stone walls that would lead them to the beast's resting place. As they ventured deeper into the ruins, Kalia couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. A narrow corridor lined with intricate stone carvings led them to an empty chamber, filled with dust and decay. The massive tome bound in Raven's severed horn lay on a stone slab at its center, glowing faintly. Kalia approached the artifact, her fingers tracing the carvings adorning its cover. "This is it," Lysander whispered, awestruck by the tome's power. "The resting place of the beast." Kalia nodded, reaching out to take hold of the tome. The moment her hands touched the binding, a surge of energy coursed through her body, and she fell to her knees. Images flooded her mind, visions of the world before humanity's fall and the balance between beasts and humans that once existed. As Kalia gazed into the eyes of the sleeping beast, she saw hope, a future where they could coexist peacefully. She closed her eyes, her heart swelling with determination. With a renewed sense of purpose, she stood up, clutching the massive tome tightly. "We've done it," she whispered, turning to Lysander. "The Eternal Beast Whisperer has come to be." Together, they carried the beast back to their campsite, lighting a new fire to symbolize the beginning of a new era. As the flames danced and flickered, Kalia looked out at the desolate wasteland before them, her eyes filled with hope for what lay ahead.